Chapter 373. You should know that no one is your match in the sacred true dragon gathering. Yu Tianhao didn't give up because of Xian Wuheng's words, and instead revealed a surprised and solemn expression. He had a feeling that this ordinary-looking man in front of him had a unique insight, and it was very likely that he had seen through all of his weaknesses, which was why he said that. You have no path of retreat. Attack or give up the true dragon token. Yu Tianhao smiled arrogantly and floated on a rock opposite Xian Wuheng. Give up the true dragon token? Xian Wuheng sighed bitterly in his heart. This was something he couldn't do. The reason he was participating in the sacred true dragon gathering wasn't for the rankings, but for the greater fortune, the inheritances. The Heaven's Legacy inheritance can't be missed. This is a chance to soar. Xian Wuheng's eyes twinkled. His true dragon token glowed with a golden light, and his ranking was around the top 10. He hadn't lost a single battle, and had even beaten 2 or 3 experts of the first tier. A peak true human rank cultivation, and such a strong dragon blessing. The person Zhao Feng recommended is indeed not simple. Yu Tianhao's aura quickly retracted. In an instant, Yu Tianhao's cultivation was suppressed to the peak true human rank. Obviously, he didn't want to take advantage of Xian Wuheng. You won't be my match like this. Xian Wuheng said expressionlessly. Hearing this, Yu Tianhao couldn't help but laugh. Arrogant. Ancient arena, on the base of the oval stage. The sovereigns, especially Yu Xingqian, watched the confrontation between Yu Tianhao and Xian Wuheng. Xian Wuheng was a very special black horse in the sacred true dragon gathering, just below Zhao Feng. Being the #1 genius of the continent, Yu Tianhao's every action was watched. Yu Tianhao's mental energy intent is comparable to the true lord rank. Even if his cultivation is suppressed, no one would be his match. However, this Xian Wuheng is very strange. His state of mind is very profound, and he vaguely has the air of a grandmaster. He's always defeated the strong with a lower cultivation base. The sovereigns were slightly interested. Unparalleled under the heavens. Yu Tianhao made his move. With a wave of his hand, a beautiful aurora-like palm light tore through the air, imbued with an unparalleled will and conviction, looking down on everything. It was clearly a palm from a peak true human rank, but it had reached a level that shocked even those at the true mystic rank. Just that tyrannical and domineering willpower alone could instantly break through the enemy's willpower, shatter the void, and force back gods and ghosts. Limitless palm. Xian Wuheng was unperturbed. With one hand behind his back, he slowly swept through the void with the other. A layer of palm energy rippled like water, colorless and translucent, without any obvious elemental orientation. Wang. Yu Tianhao's move, which had swept through millions of geniuses, fell in front of Xian Wuheng. It was as if it had fallen into a swamp, infinitely slowing down and weakening. The first move. It was a simple and ordinary neutralization. It didn't have the huge might that he had imagined. Xian Wuheng stood where he was, his knees slightly bent, one hand behind his back, and the other extended. His black hair danced in the wind, giving him a strange demeanor, as if he was a martial arts master. The supremacies on the oval platform exclaimed in shock. He wasn't impatient and was extremely calm. Xian Wuheng gave off a calmness like water, as if he wasn't a youth but a grandmaster. He didn't have peak talent or a powerful bloodline. With his mortal body, he was able to create lotuses with every step he took. He was able to compete with so many monstrous geniuses of this era. Interesting. Yu Tianhao's eyes burned with battle intent, and his will became stronger. He roared and stepped in front of Xian Wuheng in one step. Close combat. Xian Wuheng was expressionless with one hand behind his back. The other hand seemed fast yet slow, hard yet soft. Pa, pa. In the blink of an eye, Xian Wuheng and Yu Tianhao exchanged a few palms. This time, Yu Tianhao's will had been ignited and his attacks became stronger. Even at the same cultivation, Xian Wuheng found it hard to fight head-on. After all, Yu Tianhao's unparalleled in the heavens was about dominating and suppressing everything. Such a powerful martial will, such a formless mental energy, it's beyond the level of intent cultivation techniques. Xian Wuheng's expression was solemn, as he understood that his opponent this time was stronger than before. Swish! His footwork changed and his palm technique combined with his movement technique. His body, palm technique, and comprehension merged into one. At that moment, Xan Wuheng gave off a feeling that he was attached to the heavens and earth, as if he had turned into nature and could contain everything. Yu Tianhao's powerful attacks were slowly dissolved by his movement technique. Boom! Boom! Pa! The two's close combat became more and more intense and dangerous. It was as if they were standing on a steel wire, with a bottomless abyss below them. Many people on the spectator stand were dumbfounded, and took a deep breath. What was even more amazing was that when the two fought, the stones under their feet didn't collapse, and only some footprints were left. From this, one could see how much control they had over their power. Shifting stars. Xan Wuheng's palm technique changed once again. With a push and a spin, the rippling palm energy pulled Yu Tianhao's attack away. This move is interesting. Yu Tianhao's figure swayed, and he was almost pulled away by Xan Wuheng's move. And this was only because of his profound mental state. If it were some other top geniuses, they might have fallen flat on their faces. Xan Wuheng didn't let go of this chance, and his palm, body, and comprehension seemed to merge into one as he slashed towards the right side of Yu Tianhao's abdomen. Each and every one of his moves and attacks drew all of his essence, energy and spirit, not just attacking himself. Peng! This was the first time Yu Tianhao had been countered by Xan Wuheng, and was forced back several steps. He's indeed not simple. Yu Tianhao's blood seemed to boil, and his battle intent became stronger. Gradually, his cultivation became stronger and stronger, until it reached the true mystic rank. Xan Wuheng finally couldn't take it anymore, and was forced back. There was a limit to pulling 1,000 kilograms with 4 ounces. Furthermore, his opponent's comprehension was profound, and his martial intent surpassed normal blade and sword intent. 10,000 origins return. Xan Wuheng was forced to free his hands. Water-like transparent ripples spun, combining strength and gentleness. When everyone looked closely, they could vaguely see the transparent ripple-like palm energy, forming an illusory Tai Chi shape. Unparalleled under the heavens. Yu Tianhao's unparalleled palm force, with the power to crush all living things, turned the hills within a radius of 100 feet into dust. However, as Xan Wuheng's hands moved, there seemed to be an invisible force field around him that sucked in all the power that came close. Using the cultivation of a peak true human rank to dissolve my early stage true mystic rank attack, Yu Tianhao was shocked. Of course, Xan Wuheng could only dissolve his attacks, and wasn't a threat to Yu Tianhao, who had reached the true mystic rank. Furthermore, Xan Wuheng was using both hands for the first time. In the past, Xan Wuheng could defeat opponents of the same rank, or a small rank higher with one hand. On the stage, the sovereign side at the battle between Xan Wuheng and Yu Tianhao, you should be able to see that Xan Wuheng has been hiding his cultivation ever since the sacred true dragon gathering. His true cultivation is at the true mystic rank. What's weird is that he doesn't have a peak talent or bloodline. The bronze-skinned giant said, "This Xan Wuheng does indeed have secrets." Dao Sovereign Baiyan praised. Seeing everyone's attention move from Zhao Yufei to Xan Wuheng, he let out a breath. The feeling he gives me is that he has a lot of experience and a profound understanding. The way he uses the profound in some of his attacks is something that only we primal core realms can do. Yu Xingchen's eyebrows furrowed as he stared at Xan Wuheng. This Xan Wuheng was able to fight Yu Tianhao while suppressing his cultivation, even though the latter was only using the cultivation of the early stages of the true mystic rank. Let's say that a sovereign at the origin core realm has all the experience and comprehension from the consolidated realm to the origin core realm. If he starts cultivating from the beginning, even if he has no talent or bloodline, would he be mediocre? The Mystic Sword Sovereign gave an example. That's a good hypothesis. There's nothing absolute in the world. Although talent and bloodline is the king, it's not the only way. The key is fortune. Wasn't the Scarlet Moon Patriarch also average talent and no bloodline? The sovereigns all agreed. Looking through the history of the continent, there were exceptions like Xan Wuheng. Between the rivers, The frozen land was in a complete mess. Zhao Feng and Goddess Bingwei hugged each other and turned into ice. As time passed, Goddess Bingwei was more and more surprised. The qi of true spirit within Zhao Feng's body was stronger than expected. It had already been an hour, and Zhao Feng had been burning his qi of true spirit. Although it was only a small amount, the burning of his qi of true spirit was extremely powerful and had a strong melting effect on ice. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's bloodline power continued to absorb Goddess Bingwei's power of ice, and his bloodline seemed to become stronger. This bitch used such shameless methods to seal me in ice. Although Zhao Feng's life wasn't in danger, he still felt sullen. He couldn't bear being hugged by an ice woman for so long. However, his body was sealed in ice, and he didn't dare to burn his qi of true spirit in large amounts, much less his source of true spirit. Voila! Hoop boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering rumble came from the river behind them. The river water was suffused with a multicolored glow, and it shot 300 m into the air. A peerlessly beautiful young girl in a violet dress with lustrous snow-white skin floated in midair, and her silk sash fluttered in the air, causing her to be extremely beautiful. Yufei, how come you're out so fast? Mo Tianyi jumped up in fright. Where's brother Zhao Feng? Zhao Yufei's eyes flashed with a bright light. She suddenly sensed something and glanced towards the cold ice sky snow region. At the center of the snow region, Zhao Feng and an ice goddess were hugging each other. That scene caused her heart to feel inexplicably downcast and cold. Let go of brother Zhao Feng. When she saw the situation clearly, coldness flashed in her eyes, and she turned into a rainbow light that charged towards the center of the snow region. Hu Wang as Zhao Yufei flew. The sky was dyed with a layer of rainbow light. Many geniuses at the true spirit realm sensed this, and their hearts jumped. What a powerful aura. It's like a true lord rank that can summon the heaven-earth yuan qi. Goddess Bingwei, who was hugging Zhao Feng, tightly gritted her teeth, and the area around her started to glow with a cold blue light. The coldness of her domain of ice rose once more. Chapter 374. Goddess Bingwei sensed Zhao Yufei's arrival, and used her mystic ice bloodline to increase the power of ice to a terrifying level. She was prepared to seal the person who came to save her in ice as well. It was because of this reason that Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man didn't dare to save Zhao Feng. Normal true mystic ranks wouldn't be able to move the center of ice, and might even be affected by the coldness. Sister Yufei, watch out! Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man's expressions changed, but it was too late to stop her. In terms of speed, Zhao Yufei had already surpassed Mo Tianyi. In an instant, Zhao Yufei flew above the center of ice, and the coldness became stronger the closer she got. Even true mystic ranks would find it hard to reach the center of ice. Zhao Yufei's snow-white skin was sparkling, giving off a kind of translucent feeling. When the cold energy invaded her, it didn't freeze her or seal her in ice. Her body was surrounded by a rainbow glow that resonated with the heaven-earth yuan qi within a mile radius, and gave off the illusion that she was at the true lord rank. Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man could only watch as Zhao Yufei neared the center of ice. At this moment, although Zhao Yufei's bloodline was special, and she had a half-spiritual body, a layer of frost still appeared on her body that intertwined with the rainbow glow. Break! Zhao Yufei shouted in a tender voice. Her jade-like hand emitted a sharp multicolored light. Like a multicolored blade, it transformed into hundreds of phantoms and fiercely hacked on the ice layer. Boom! Boom! Cracks started to appear on the outer layer of the frozen region, and some places even exploded. What a strong power! Her every action resonates with the power of the heaven-earth. Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man were dazed. Zhao Yufei came out of seclusion, and her strength was unexpectedly strong. Although Zhao Yufei's cultivation was still at the early stages of the true human rank, her ability to resonate with the heaven-earth yuan qi was comparable to the true lord rank. Don't even think about it. Do you really think you can break through my ice seal? Goddess Bingwei's body released an even colder light, and the surrounding ice quickly healed. Wisps of icy wind and cold air howled as they rushed toward Zhao Yufei. Zhao Yufei cried out in surprise. She used her secret art to resist the backlash of shattering the icy wind. In terms of strength, Zhao Yufei was still slightly weaker than Goddess Bingwei, who was an overwhelming prodigy. However, Goddess Bingwei had forgotten one point. The frozen Zhao Feng was the sixth overwhelming prodigy, an existence on the same level as her. She diverted her attention to deal with Zhao Yufei, giving Zhao Feng time to catch his breath. Taking advantage of this time, Zhao Feng burned some of his qi of true spirit to dissolve the ice-sealing cold energy in his body. Profound thunder explosion. The surface of Zhao Feng's body was covered in flower petals of lightning, and as they bloomed one after another, their power continued to surge. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening explosion erupted from the outside of the ice layer, successfully coordinating with Zhao Yufei's attack from the inside. At this moment in time, everyone within 100 miles could hear the sound of an iceberg collapsing. The surrounding ice started to crumble layer by layer. The terrifying explosive power of the profound thunder explosion immediately hit Goddess Bingwei, who was hugging Zhao Feng. The distance was too close. Goddess Bingwei's body went numb and flew back dozens of yards as blood leaked from the corner of her mouth. Burning my qi of true spirit is indeed powerful. This mystic lightning explosion is a technique I created myself while I was sealed in ice by fusing the lightning inheritance, lightning mystic rock, and the profound essence of the mystic flower treasure book. Zhao Feng's figure turned into a chaotic wave of lightning that scorched the ground wherever he passed. He was like a god of destruction. The spectating overwhelming prodigies, such as Shi Qingtian and Taiyan Shuangzi, were all shocked. The profound thunder explosion was after all used by burning his qi of true spirit, and its power was terrifying. Before, because Zhao Feng's body was sealed in ice, he lacked an outlet, and didn't dare explode out of fear of injuring himself. Brother Zhao, are you okay? Zhao Yufei tried her best to dissolve the ice and lightning around her, and met up with Zhao Feng. Yufei, you've come at the right time. The two stood side by side facing Goddess Bingwei in the air above the ruined river. Lightning fire God's eye. Without saying a word, Zhao Feng sent out an eye flame that burned Goddess Bingwei's body. Goddess Bingwei felt a burning pain in her mind, and circulated her mystic ice jade charming body to extinguish the lightning fire. You bastard! Goddess Bingwei's face was slightly pale as she breathed rapidly. At this point in the battle, Goddess Bingwei had used all her methods, and even used a hug to freeze an unfamiliar man. But she had still failed. Not only that, Goddess Bingwei had expended a lot of energy, and the injury on her mind became bigger. An overwhelming prodigy and a quasi-overwhelming prodigy. It'll be troublesome if I don't leave. Goddess Bingwei turned into a streak of cold light, and escaped towards the west. Zhao Feng sent Goddess Bingwei off with his eyes but didn't chase. He and Zhao Yufei had just broken through, and hadn't consolidated their foundations, so they couldn't fight for long. Furthermore, Zhao Feng didn't have any confidence in keeping Goddess Bingwei here. The latter's ice bloodline, and mystic ice jade charming body, were hard to deal with. Zhao Feng's bloodline could absorb ice attacks, and Goddess Bingwei's bloodline had strong defense, and was almost immune to normal ice attacks. It was Zhao Yufei's strength that surprised Zhao Feng. She had just broken through to the true mystic rank, and already had the battle power of a quasi-overwhelming prodigy. In the middle of the river, only Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei were left standing shoulder to shoulder like a couple. Goddess Bingwei and Shi Qingtian had both retreated. Zhao Feng gazed in the direction the two had escaped in, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Goddess Bingwei had just escaped 100 miles, when a rainbow-colored girl appeared on the lake in front of her, holding a 5-colored glass whip. Her skirt reached her knees, and revealed half of her snow-white legs. Her eyes were pure and flawless. Tantai Lanyue, what's the meaning of this? Goddess Bingwei's expression changed faintly. Hee, Goddess Bingwei, I haven't paid you back for ambushing me before. Tantai Lanyue waved the 5-colored glass whip, and a white mist appeared under her feet, covering 100 yards radius. Roar! A soul-shaking roar came from under the rainbow-dressed girl's feet, and an invisible aura made Goddess Bingwei's breathing stop. Inside the white mist was a crocodile-shaped earth dragon the size of a hill. It was covered in brownish-yellow scales, and had a crystal-yellow horn on its head. Its bloody mouth was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. It was even bigger than an ordinary house. Compared to the colossal earth dragon beast, Tantan Lanua was as small as an ant. However, she was the owner of this powerful horned earth dragon beast. Hee horned. Let's beat the dog when it's down. Tantai Lanua smiled innocently and waved the 5-colored glass whip as she stood on the horned earth dragon beast and attacked Tantai Lanua. That momentum was like a small moving mountain, rampaging and looking down on everything. Goddess Bing Wei didn't have Yu Tianhao's battle power, nor Shi Qingtian's physical strength, so she didn't dare face it head-on, and quickly retreated. At the same time, on the other side dozens of miles away, Shi Qingtian's steps were slightly unstable, and he suddenly stopped in front of a hill. Shi Qingtian, we've been waiting for you for a long time. Taiyun Shuangzi laughed savagely as he held a blade and a sword and blocked Shi Qingtian's path. Shi Qingtian's forte wasn't speed, and his leg injury hadn't healed yet. It could be said he had no way out and could only fight. All of this fell into Zhao Feng's eyes. Goddess Bing Wei and Shi Qingtian were ambushed and chased by other prodigies after being pushed back by Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't feel any pity towards this. Not long after, Zhao Feng, Zhao Yufei, Mo Tianyi, and the yellow-faced man met up once again. Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man were slightly awkward. Before, when Zhao Feng was sealed in ice, they didn't dare to help, but it was Zhao Yufei who risked everything to save him. After the danger had been resolved, Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei had both broken through. It could be said that everyone was happy. Zhao Yufei had just broken through and needed to consolidate her cultivation. Zhao Feng, on the other hand, didn't need to do that because his root of law and cultivation had been reached before he broke through. Brother Mo, you guys protect Yufei. I'll be right back. Zhao Feng threw out a sentence, and his figure shot through the air, leaving behind a blur of lightning. Zhao Feng wasn't chasing after Goddess Bing Wei or Shi Qingtian. He came to a nearby peak and opened his god's spiritual eye to look at a valley far away. Within the valley, Yu Tianhao and Xan Wuheng moved their fists, palms and legs simultaneously as they started a heart-shaking battle. The two's attacks were extremely focused, and within a radius of 100 yards, there were holes left behind. This Xan Wuheng has indeed hidden himself deeply. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye locked onto Xan Wuheng. Xan Wuheng's profound intent seemed to rely on the limitless power of the heaven and earth. His every action and every move was perfectly merged into one. Every move and stance was exquisite, and used all of Xan Wuheng's power. The heaven-earth Yuan Qi nearby seemed to become his shield. His opponent, Yu Tianhao, was pure and extremely strong. His will of faith was like the formless power of the sword intent, and the saber intent, which could cut through the void and scare away ghosts and gods. If Zhao Feng had to choose who was stronger, it would definitely be Yu Tianhao, who had unrivaled sacred true dragon gathering battle power. However, if one had to say who was more profound, it would definitely be Xan Wuheng. 10 moves, 50 moves, 100 moves. The pace of the two's battle was sometimes slow, and sometimes fast, and gave people the feeling that time and space was twisting. The spectators, whether it was Zhao Feng or the spectators in the ancient arena, all felt their hearts shake. The difference was, Zhao Feng wasn't just standing there to watch. His god's spiritual eye was open to the extreme as he dissected. He copied the scene of some of the concepts and moves, comprehending them over and over again. Due to this, Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye was circulated to the extreme in order to steal more things. At a certain moment, he suddenly had the feeling that his consciousness had jumped out of his body. Shua! Zhao Feng's view changed. He could see the battle between Yu Tianhao and Xan Wuheng from the clouds. Yu Tianhao and Xan Wuheng, who were fighting, vaguely sensed something, as if a cold eye was looking down at them from the 9 heavens. However, when he raised his head, he didn't feel anything. After 200 moves, the victor of the battle was decided. Pa! One of the figures flew out and sunk into the mountain. Chapter 375. Unparalleled under the heavens. The battle intent on Yu Tianhao's body shot into the sky, as an all-powerful martial Tao will annihilated the gods and ghosts in the void, and it pushed out a palm strike that was extremely domineering and was like a gorgeous aurora. The ground faintly trembled while the clouds in the sky roiled and lost their color. At that instant, He seemed to become the only existence in the heavens and earth with a powerful will that looked down on everything. Star Passage. 10,000 Origins Return. Xian Wuheng had a solemn expression as he took a horse stance, and his hands drew a ripple in the air as he tried to absorb and redirect Yu Tianhao's palm. However, at the last moment, with the increase in his martial intent, Yu Tianhao's cultivation uncontrollably reached the late stages of the true mystic rank. Bam! Xian Wuheng's body flew back into the mountain, causing dust to rise. I've lost. If you want the true dragon token, I can give it to you. Xian Wuheng expressionlessly took out the true dragon token. In the barrier of light, winning or losing didn't mean you could take away the true dragon genius blessing. You had to take the true dragon token. The difference in cultivation as well as Yu Tianhao's unique bloodline and unstoppable martial intent meant there wasn't much suspense in this battle. You're only at the early stages of the true mystic rank, but you force me to use the strength of the late stages of the true mystic rank to barely win. Yu Tianhao looked deeply at Xian Wuheng, as if to remember the latter's appearance. However, Xian Wuheng's appearance was too normal, and had almost no special characteristics. On the other hand, his calm and unhurried temperament didn't match his age. Finally, Yu Tianhao didn't take Xian Wuheng's true dragon token and flew away. In his heart, he didn't even win this battle, and could even be said to have lost. Being the #1 genius of the continent, Yu Tianhao had been surrounded by countless halos, and had always stood at the peak of his generation. Although he didn't lose this battle, he still felt slightly defeated. Xian Wuheng sent Yu Tianhao off with his eyes and shook his head. Not taking the true dragon token was within his expectations. Ancient Arena, on the base of the oval stage. Although Xian Wuheng seemed to lose in the last move, he wasn't injured at all and dissipated all the power. The Green Moon Sovereign's face didn't hide her surprise. That's fine. How Er's path of cultivation has been too smooth. It's not a good thing that he has no opponents. Yu Xingchen's eyes flashed as he fell into deep thought. As his father, he even hoped that Yu Tianhao could temper himself more and meet more formidable opponents. However, Yu Tianhao's talent and comprehension were too shocking, leaving the geniuses of his generation far behind. In the past year, Yu Tianhao purposely didn't try to break through to the true lord rank, or else the sacred true dragon gathering wouldn't mean anything to him. On the peak, Zhao Feng's consciousness was in a mysterious state. It was like he had jumped out of the shackles of his physical body and was high in the clouds, watching the battle between Xian Wuheng and Yu Tianhao. A similar feeling had appeared twice before. The first 2 times an eye of heaven appeared in the sky, it consumed a terrifying amount of mental energy. This time, Zhao Feng controlled himself a little. He only peeped, but did not deliberately exert any pressure. After the battle ended, Xian Wuheng casually glanced at the sky. He appeared somewhat doubtful as he pondered. Yu Tianhao's battle power is indeed unrivaled. Even Xian Wuheng lost. Zhao Feng comprehended the scenes in the dimension of his left eye. Yu Tianhao's undefeatable willpower surpassed normal sword and blade intent. Song Yuyue and Tian Yunji couldn't even take one hit in front of him. This power came from the heart, and Zhao Feng couldn't copy it. The god's spiritual eye's copying ability wasn't omnipotent, and had its limits. Firstly, bloodline and elemental affinity. Some bloodline techniques were built on the bloodline, and even if Zhao Feng understood the theory, he wouldn't be able to use them. This was the biggest barrier. Secondly, the level of these techniques was too high, and Zhao Feng couldn't use them due to the limitations of his cultivation. For example, if Zhao Feng tried to comprehend the legendary Earth-grade techniques, even those at the Origin Core realm would find it hard, let alone him. On the other hand, Xian Wuheng's moves didn't have any obvious elemental affinity or bloodline requirements. After all, Xian Wuheng's talent was average, and he didn't have a bloodline. However, his moves were extremely profound, and didn't have much of a restriction on his cultivation. Hihi, Star Passage Technique, 10,000 Origins return to the origin, and that special footwork intent. Every movement and every move draws the essence, aura and soul of heaven and earth. A smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face as he comprehended Xian Wuheng's moves. In the end, he divided them into 3 different intents. The first, star passage technique. It was an extremely profound technique that borrowed the power of gravity. The second, 10,000 origins return to the origin. It was even higher, using an invisible technique to absorb the power of the opponent's moves, and even turn it into his own. The third, merging the essence, aura and soul into one, becoming one with heaven and earth. The 3 intents were extremely profound, and each was more profound than the last. Only the first one could be copied by Zhao Feng immediately, which was the technique of borrowing the power of gravity. The second, 10,000 origins return to the origin, was more profound and involved Xi and Wuheng's skills. Zhao Feng wasn't able to learn it immediately. The third one was even higher, and Zhao Feng found that it was how the root of law was used. Comprehending the third intent can increase the level of my root of law. Zhao Feng comprehended. This way, he focused on the third intent and merged the first into his own skill. The Lightning Inheritance and Mystic Flower Treasure Bible were top-tier inheritances and skills across the continent, but were only average in the sacred True Dragon gathering. Zhao Feng had to keep on absorbing and strengthening his own skill in order to reach the peak of the continent. He thought that his experience was limited in creating a new skill, but if he combined the strengths of the other skills, he could try and have some success. After a short while, Zhao Feng returned to the cave. Zhao Yufei was consolidating her cultivation, and Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man were responsible for protecting her. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Zhao Feng absorbed the star passage technique and merged it into his own skill. After that, he focused on comprehending Xi and Wuheng's special intent of merging with the heaven and earth. Under this comprehension, Zhao Feng had to focus all of his mental energy and connect his root of law with the heaven and earth without any distractions. Essence, Qi and Spirit became one. Every move and every stance drew upon the essence, Qi and Spirit of the entire body, exploding forth with the strength of the entire body. This was mainly about movements and concepts, which were slightly easier to comprehend. Apart from simulating in his mind, Zhao Feng would occasionally stand up and move. Mo Tianyi and the yellow-faced man were surprised to find that Zhao Feng's steps had an intent similar to Xi and Wuheng's. Star passage technique, merging his mental energy into one. Zhao Feng could basically do this. The merging of his mental energy into one ignited Zhao Feng's potential, and his senses reached a level that he couldn't reach normally. Zhao Feng felt his root of law's intent become clearer, and his ability to communicate with the heaven-earth Yuan Qi increased. The Qi of true spirit within his body merged with his mental energy and circulated more smoothly. No wonder Xi and Wuheng's cultivation speed is so fast. Zhao Feng's mind was clear, and his mental energy was stronger than ever, increasing his connection with the heaven-earth Yuan Qi. In just half a day, Zhao Feng felt his mental energy level rise, and his cultivation increase. At this point in time, his cultivation had completely consolidated, and even surpassed most early-stage true mystic ranks, heading towards the early stages of the true mystic rank. The more he comprehended, the more Zhao Feng felt that Xi and Wuheng wasn't simple. Zhao Feng didn't believe that Xi and Wuheng learned all of this from the clan. Therefore, Zhao Feng asked Mo Tianyi, "There's many rumors about this Xi and Wuheng. It is said that he has the ability to become a self-taught genius. He has never taken a master, and can comprehend it himself. Or from some simple cultivation methods, he can cultivate astonishing moves." Mo Tianyi said after some thought. After all, before the sacred True Dragon gathering, Xi and Wuheng was already a genius that shook the northern continent, just below Mo Tianyi and Xia Xianshang. Just as the two of them were conversing, shouts came from above the river zone. "Chapter Leader Zhao. Chapter Leader, is he here?" A male and female voice sounded from above. Zhao Feng raised his head, and was slightly surprised as he returned to the air above the river. The two were Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi. The two of them had dejected looks on their faces. There wasn't the slightest hint of dragon providence on them. What's going on? Zhao Feng realized that he had forgotten about Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi from the Iron Blood religion. After asking, Zhao Feng found out that both Jiang Sanfeng and Lin Feng's True Dragon tokens had been taken. A few days ago, the two teamed up, and as long as they didn't meet the geniuses of the first tier, they could pass. But 2 days ago, their luck was bad, and they were chased by Taiyun Shuangzi. Your true dragon tokens were all taken by Taiyun Shuangzi? Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed. He had seen Taiyun Shuangzi's brutality before. As long as someone didn't obediently hand over their true dragon token, Taiyun Shuangzi would beat them to death. I almost lost my life. My right arm was broken. Jiang Somfeng's face was full of humiliation. Only now did Zhao Feng realize that the upper half of his robe was empty. If we didn't find a new target, Taiyun Shuangzi might have beaten us to death, Dai Yi said with lingering fear. In this dimension, once a true dragon token was taken, it was hard to get another one back. As time passed, the number of true dragon tokens decreased, and the geniuses that obtained them were undoubtedly strong. The two teamed up but still couldn't last more than a few moves. Originally, the two were dispirited and gave up. But recently, he suddenly heard that the dimension had given birth to a sixth overwhelming prodigy, Zhao Feng. The two were overjoyed and came to find Zhao Feng. Don't worry, I'll help you get another true dragon token. Furthermore, there are too many overwhelming prodigies in this dimension. Zhao Feng's expression was cold and his eyes were sharp. His blue hair moved without any wind. Dai Yi and Jiang Samfeng were stunned. From Zhao Feng's tone, it seemed that he wanted to find trouble with Taiyun Shuangzi. Taiyun Shuangzi was famed for his savagery, cruelty, and cunning amongst the 5 overwhelming prodigies. Moreover, this pair of Siamese brothers could combine their swords and sabers to attack together. They could attack and defend at the same time, and it could be said to be perfect without any flaws. Chapter 376. After meeting up with Jiang Samfeng and Dai Yi, Zhao Feng immediately left and split up with the 3 from the Heavenly Yuan clan. On the Heavenly Yuan clan's side, Zhao Yufei had the strength of a quasi-overwhelming prodigy, and Mo Tianyi was one of the first-tier geniuses. With these two here, even if an overwhelming prodigy came, they would be able to fight back. Zhao Feng led the way, and the golden figure of a dragon flashed in the air, and could be sensed from far away. Run! The 6th overwhelming prodigy, Zhao Feng, has come out of seclusion. This Zhao Feng has heavily injured Shirchengtian and Goddess Bingwei. His eye bloodline is unbeatable. On the way, chaos ensued, and the geniuses with the true dragon token either ran away or hid. Jiang Samfeng and Dai Yi followed Zhao Feng and clicked their tongues. Apart from being excited, they were also slightly complicated. Thinking about how they had been chased by the overwhelming prodigies and powerful geniuses before, they had to run away. But now, they had experienced the feeling of power, and seeing the peak geniuses of the continent run away made them extremely happy. Although they were using the tiger's name to intimidate others. This is the effect of strength. I didn't think that an overwhelming prodigy would appear in the Iron Blood religion. Jiang Samfeng and Dai Yi were extremely relaxed and didn't need to worry about being chased. On the way, Zhao Feng's group coincidentally met Prince Jin and a few others from the Canopy Great Country. Prince Jin saw Zhao Feng's overwhelming prodigy aura and was dazed for a moment before taking a deep breath and came to join Zhao Feng. If Zhao Feng was willing, he could take in a few lackeys. Leave or else I won't rule out attacking you the next time we meet. Zhao Feng coldly rejected, and an indescribable mental energy pressure made it hard for Prince Jin and company to breathe. This was the sacred True Dragon gathering, and although there were no rules, he wasn't a Buddha who protected others. Prince Jin and the rest left dejectedly. However, this result was not unexpected. Zhao Feng did not seem to be a soft-hearted person. Division Master Zhao, your dragon luck aura is simply too strong. When those people saw you, they all ran far away. Dai Yi couldn't help but worry. As time went on, the number of true dragon tokens would decrease. It's simple. Zhao Feng waved his hand and had the little thieving cat come out. With Dai Yi and Jiang Samfeng as bait, the little thieving cat as a sneak attack, and Zhao Feng in the distance with the Luoho bow. In fact, with Zhao Feng's speed, even if those geniuses tried to escape, he could easily snatch a few true dragon tokens. However, he didn't want the two to easily obtain the true dragon token. An hour later, Zhao Feng didn't do much, and Dai Yi and Jiang Sanfeng each received a silver true dragon token with faint golden lines on it. After dealing with the two, Zhao Feng prepared to find trouble with Taiyun Shuangzi. Zhao Feng ordered Dai Yi and Jiang Sanfeng to stay within 20 miles of him. This way, the overwhelming prodigy's dragon blessing would make other geniuses not dare to come close. Division Master Zhao, that Taiyun Shuangzi is terrifying and not normal. Now that we've obtained the true dragon tokens, we don't need to be enemies with him. Jiang Sanfeng felt uneasy. After all, Zhao Feng was a newly born overwhelming prodigy. Taiyun Shuangzi was a pair of brothers, and each had 80% of an overwhelming prodigy's battle power. Under the combination of sword and blade, they slightly surpassed normal overwhelming prodigies. From the start of the sacred true dragon gathering until now, only Yu Tianhao and Taiyun Shuangzi hadn't lost a battle. Taiyun Shuangzi's sword and blade combined attack is indeed strong. In terms of offense, he might even surpass Shi Chengtian and Goddess Bingwei. I don't have much confidence in a head-on battle. Zhao Feng's expression was calm and collected. Hearing this, Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi instantly became uneasy. If Zhao Feng didn't have much confidence, why would he go find Taiyun Shuangzi? If something happened to Zhao Feng because of the two of them, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Of course, I'm talking about a head-on battle. In other people's eyes, Taiyun Shuangzi's sword and blade combined attack is perfect and flawless. However, I've grasped their flaws and have a chance to win in one move. Zhao Feng had a faint confidence. In the sacred true dragon gathering, only an overwhelming prodigy could deal with an overwhelming prodigy. After speaking, he opened his god's spiritual eye and searched for Taiyun Shuangzi's location. In a short while, Zhao Feng confirmed Taiyun Shuangzi's location. Let's go. Zhao Feng led the way. Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi wanted to say something, but it was replaced by anticipation. On the way, a powerful golden dragon suddenly appeared in front of him, and it was even slightly stronger than Zhao Feng's. Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi took a deep breath with nervous expressions. So, a jade Kirin flying fish appeared in the sky. It was about the size of a pond, and on it stood a beautiful girl in a colorful dress. She held a 5-colored glass whip in her hand, and the geniuses around her all retreated. In the space, once an overwhelming prodigy appeared, everyone would jump. However, what would happen when an overwhelming prodigy met an overwhelming prodigy? Under normal situations, overwhelming prodigies would be able to sense each other from far away. Under most situations, they wouldn't have a chance of winning, and would purposely avoid each other. However, Zhao Feng locked onto Taiyun Shuangzi's direction, and obviously didn't have any intentions of avoiding. It's him. Tantai Lanyue saw Zhao Feng from far away, and her pure eyes twinkled. Solemnness appeared on her face. Before, Tantai Lanyue and Zhao Feng had only met for a short while but didn't fight. At that time, Zhao Feng only had the battle power of a quasi-overwhelming prodigy, and although Tantai Lanyue couldn't be ignored, he still looked down on her. However, Zhao Feng had fought against 2 overwhelming prodigies and injured Shi Chengtian before forcing back Goddess Bingwei, creating a new overwhelming prodigy that couldn't be shaken. Tantai Lanyue had also paid attention to that battle. His eye bloodline leans towards mental energy. My spiritual level is high, so it can be said that I can restrain him. However, I'm afraid he'll attack my spiritual pet. Tantai Lanyue analyzed. Although she wasn't scared of Zhao Feng, she was still wary. The two of them showed no fear of each other. They watched as the 2 enormous luck dragons slowly approached each other, refusing to give way to each other. Not long after, Zhao Feng and Tantai Lanyue were 1 mile away from each other. This distance was enough for them to attack, especially Zhao Feng, who specialized in archery. Tantai Lanyue was already on her guard. However, Zhao Feng didn't even pay attention to her, as he flew behind Tantai Lanyue. Tantai Lanyue was slightly surprised. She originally thought that Zhao Feng was here to cause trouble. After all, Tantai Lanyue had disturbed Zhao Feng when he was in seclusion. Suddenly, the direction that Zhao Feng was aiming at made her think of something. If I'm not wrong, that direction should be Taiyun Shuangzi and Shi Chengtian. Tantai Lanyue's crystal-like eyes spun, as if she had guessed something. If she wasn't wrong, Zhao Feng had most likely locked onto an overwhelming prodigy. Thinking up to here, Tantai Lanue decided to watch from the back. Half the time it took to make tea later. A group of mountains appeared in front of them, and the earth elemental Yuan Qi was strong. There were 2 large auras of dragon blessing in this group of mountains. In the depths of the mountains, Taiyun Shuangzi held a sword and blade in his hand, and laughed savagely, as he slashed at a large stone ball at the bottom of a mountain. The large stone ball gave off a yellow glow, as it sank into the mountain. Ding ding! Pung pung! The sword and blade created sparks as they slashed at the large stone ball. Of the 2 large auras, one came from Taiyun Shuangzi, and the other came from the large stone ball. Taking a closer look, the large stone ball was actually a person. It was curled up into a ball, and its surface was condensed with a layer of yellow earth crystals, forming a powerful defense. The large stone ball was embedded into the mountain, and seemed to connect with the power of the earth, increasing its defense by several times. As expected of Shi Chengtian, he has the stone heart bloodline, and has the strongest defense amongst the overwhelming prodigies. Zhao Feng couldn't help but sigh as he watched from afar. Shi Chengtian's defense was already terrifying and normal prodigies wouldn't be able to break through it. At this moment, he had used a secret technique to curl himself into a stone ball, and his body was almost petrified as he connected with the earth elemental energy in the mountain. Imperceptibly, his defense and recovery ability had greatly increased. If it wasn't for Zhao Feng crippling Shi Chengtian's leg and injuring his soul, Taiyun Shuangzi really wouldn't be able to do anything to Shi Chengtian. But Taiyun Shuangzi was cunning and struck while the iron was hot. He attacked Shi Chengtian and chased him all the way, forcing him into such a state. No matter how strong Shi Chengtian was, Taiyun Shuangzi couldn't escape his fate. Boss, there seems to be the aura of a prodigy. Not good, it's that brat. Does he want to take a share of our profits? Taiyun Shuangzi stopped and let out a breath. His cunning green bean eyes stared at Zhao Feng with a threatening intent. Normal overwhelming prodigies would avoid conflict with Taiyun Shuangzi. This pair of brothers were cruel, and their attacks were violent. Normal overwhelming prodigies wouldn't be able to handle them. Blue-haired brat, you've come at the right time. Let's team up and take down this stone person. After that, we'll split his genius draconic providence 60-40. Taiyun Shuangzi's eyes spun as he thought of a plan. Analyzing the current situation, they couldn't start a conflict with Zhao Feng. They had already forced Shi Chengtian into a dangerous situation. If they fought with Zhao Feng, Shi Chengtian would definitely recover and launch a pincer attack. At that time, it wasn't easy to counterattack with 2 overwhelming prodigies at the same time. Seeing Zhao Feng come over, Shi Chengtian's stone ball immediately sunk into the depths of the mountain. Taiyun Shuangzi didn't mind, and waited for Zhao Feng's reply. The heavily injured Shi Chengtian wouldn't be able to run far. This is the conversation between overwhelming prodigies? Taiyun Shuangzi doesn't dare to start a conflict with us, and even suggested working together. Behind them, Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi were shocked to see this. Taiyun Shuangzi suggested working together, and giving up 40% of the profits. From a certain point of view, this was a compromise and a recognition of Zhao Feng's strength. But who would have thought? Zhao Feng's expression darkened as his blue hair danced in the wind. You 2 ugly monsters think you're worthy of working together with me? My target isn't the stone person, but the filth of this world. One move is enough to deal with you. Chapter 377. My target isn't the stone man, but the filth of this world. One move is enough to deal with you. The blue-haired youth in his sight was cold and emotionless. These words were like a slap to the face. Taiyun Shuangzi, who was famed for his cruelty and cruelty, paused and went into a daze. One move is enough. Where does this Zhao Feng get his confidence from? Tantan Lanue, who was secretly following from afar, had a powerful spiritual sense. She could clearly see the situation here, and was surprised. Amongst the original 5 overwhelming prodigies, Taiyun Shuangzi, as a conjoined body, was extremely powerful, cruel and bloodthirsty, vaguely had the tendency to be ranked second. Taiyun Shuangzi was one of the favorites for first in this sacred true dragon gathering, and had a high chance of challenging Yu Tianhao. Shi Qingtian, who had entered the mountain, paused after hearing this. This Zhao Feng's tone is so arrogant. However, being someone who had lost to Zhao Feng, Shi Qingtian knew how terrifying the opponent was, and was suspicious. He didn't run far, and instead sat down to recover, while paying attention to the situation. Defeat us in one move? Arrogant brat. Yaya. He doesn't put us brothers in his eyes at all. Taiyun Shuangzi roared as he gripped his sword and blade. His true spirit realm aura contained a killing intent that could scare gods and ghosts. Thinking back to when they had dominated the sacred true dragon gathering and slaughtered everyone, even overwhelming prodigies had to avoid them. When had they ever been looked down upon like this? One move was enough. This was an insult to one's dignity, and was extremely disrespectful to an overwhelming prodigy, even if the opponent was also an overwhelming prodigy. Cruel, easily angered and self-centered. Zhao Feng stood with his hands behind his back, and looked at the enraged Taiyun Shuangzi who was charging over. Boom! In an instant, the nearby mountains were sliced off and a small mountain was split into pieces. Sky Astral 9 Flame Blade. Earth Demon Ice Soul Sword. The blade and sword slashed out, and fire and ice intertwined. Everything within a mile radius turned into a death zone. The terrifying aura was enough to instantly kill normal true mystic ranks. The two top-notch cultivation techniques were of completely opposite attributes. When they worked together, their battle prowess was ranked among the top among the geniuses. Such a powerful battle strength. The fusion of sword and saber, the fusion of fire and cold, can be said to be perfect. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. In this situation, he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage against Taiyun Shuangzi. Whoosh! He left behind an electric phantom in his original position, and a series of overlapping phantom shadows appeared in the void. Pew pew boom! Taiyun Shuangzi's first round of attacks missed, and quickly locked onto a lone peak. Under the attack, only a stone pillar as thick as a person was left on the peak. Ugly monster! You were born together. You have no freedom, no privacy, and even your lives are bound together. How sorrowful it is for you to live in this world. Perhaps this is the reason why you are so extreme and bloodthirsty. Zhao Feng stood on the stone pillar with his hands behind his back. His face was full of mockery and pity. When he said this, Taiyun Shuangzi was startled for a moment. Then, his eyes widened and his anger reached the extreme. Arg! Brat! You're dead for sure. Yaya! This blue-haired brat dares to look down on us? People like this in the past were all cut into 10,000 pieces and devoured by us. Taiyun Shuangzi's killing intent and anger reached a peak. With one word, Zhao Feng touched Taiyun Shuangzi's reverse scale, and the biggest grudge in their hearts. Although they had two minds, they were in the same body. They had no freedom, no privacy, and were looked down upon. Even the women they enjoyed were from the same body. It's actually very simple. As long as I kill one of you, the other will be able to be reborn. A smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face. Kill one of them. The cruel and bloodthirsty Taiyun Shuangzi had obviously thought about this before. They were tired of this body and each other. However, they were also brothers and had a master. Eye of the heart. Zhao Feng's left eye seemed to extend infinitely, as if it was drawing out a dream heaven. Taiyun Shuangzi, who was extremely angry, had lost his mind. When he saw Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye, his body and mind shook as he stood dazed on the spot. Next, Taiyun Shuangzi's two faces showed a slight struggle before it was replaced by savageness, viciousness, and a silly smile. Then, their gazes turned and completely ignored Zhao Feng as they stared at each other. Boss, I've tolerated you for far too long these years. Help me, your little brother. I want to live alone. I want to be truly free. I don't want to enjoy women and have to share them with others. Taiyun's second brother's face twisted as his sword flashed and slashed towards Taiyun's first brother. I've already predicted that this day would come. Taiyun's first brother laughed cruelly as his blade gave off a bright light as it slashed towards Taiyun's second brother. Dang 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 dang. Taiyun's big brother and Taiyun's second brother fought fiercely, refusing to give in to each other. It was a good show of fratricide. On the same body, the blade and sword clashed, causing sparks to fly. What was more amazing was that Taiyun Shuangzi shared the same body, and the two qi of true spirit intertwined. In just a moment, the two fought fiercely, and within a 1-mile radius the wind howled. Zhao Feng's figure was dim, as he half hid on the lone stone pillar. His left eye stretched out and formed a beautiful color. The eye of the heart's power against those who don't have a firm will, and have flaws in their hearts will increase by many folds. Zhao Feng stood on the lone stone pillar with his hands behind his back, as he watched Taiyun Shuangzi kill each other. In terms of battle power, even Zhao Feng was wary of Taiyun Shuangzi. Even Goddess Bingwei and Tantai Lanyue were wary of him. Taiyun Shuangzi combined his blade and sword together, and their battle power could be said to be perfect. Zhao Feng had to admit this point. He didn't have much confidence in a head-on battle. But sometimes, winning didn't require a violent battle. There was a more elegant way. Taiyun Shuangzi had been affected by the environment, and had a big flaw in his personality, which was hit by Zhao Feng in one move. Winning in one move wasn't just empty words. Zhao Feng didn't even need to make a move to make Taiyun Shuangzi kill each other and die together. Oh my god, what happened to Taiyun Shuangzi? Did he really get defeated by Zhao Feng in one move? Tantai Lanyue, who was chasing from behind, had shock written all over her face. One move is enough. This Zhao Feng didn't lie at all. Shi Qingtian, who was hiding in the mountain, took in a cold breath. Ding ding dang dang dang. The battle between Taiyun Shuangzi and Taiyun Shuang. The two's battle became fiercer and fiercer. Because the two had the same body, they tried to attack the other's head and arms. Taiyun Shuangzi's arm was slashed, and there were a few bloody marks on his face. One of Taiyun Shuangzi's ears was sliced off. At this point in time, the two were covered in blood, and their expressions were savage. Half an hour later, Taiyun Shuangzi's body was wobbling on the spot, and the two were in a stalemate. Xiao xiao. Suddenly, an electric saber light streaked across like a thunderbolt, and disappeared from behind him. Not good. Taiyun Shuangzi and Taiyun Shuangzi both felt a chill as they understood the situation. But it was too late. Puchi. One of Taiyun Shuangzi's legs was sliced off and blood splattered everywhere. Plop. Taiyun Shuangzi, who had lost his balance, fell onto the ground with a face full of pain. There were dozens of wounds on his body, including internal injuries. Zhao Feng's lightning slash was also aimed at Taiyun Shuangzi's weakness. Because Taiyun Shuangzi only had two legs in the same body, losing one would greatly hinder his movements. Not good. We've been ambushed by this brat. Taiyun Shuangzi's face was full of regret. At this moment, Taiyun Shuangzi was heavily injured and had lost a leg. His battle power had decreased by more than half. Zhao Feng stood on the stone pillar, and a playful smile appeared on his face. His blue hair fluttered without any wind, and he was like a lord of the wicked path. Each of his words and actions put the opponent in dire straits. Run! Taiyun Shuangzi wasn't dumb, and he resisted the pain as he circulated his qi of true spirit and flew towards the mountain behind him. In their current state, they might not even be able to win against the peak experts of the first tier, let alone overwhelming prodigies. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's methods were mysterious and formless. Thinking about the situation just now, they couldn't help but shiver. Taiyun Shuangzi, accept your death. A powerful and resonant voice came from the mountain peak. Immediately after, a terrifying gravity descended on Taiyun Shuangzi's body. Shi Qingtian. Taiyun Shuangzi screamed in fear as his body fell down. Crack. Shi Qingtian broke through the mountain, and his giant body heavily stepped on Taiyun Shuangzi's body. Wah! Taiyun Shuangzi instantly spat out a mouthful of blood as his bones broke and his organs bled. Shi Qingtian had the strongest body in the sacred true dragon gathering, and the power of his stomp was terrifying. Furthermore, Shi Qingtian didn't plan on stopping, and continued to step on Taiyun Shuangzi's body, and steal his true dragon token. Boom! Two dazzling golden luck dragons intertwined with each other in the sky. One of the golden dragon's aura was fading away. However, the overwhelming prodigy's true dragon token contained an enormous amount of dragon blessing, and couldn't be absorbed in a short amount of time. When it was half gone, Shi Qingtian reached out and threw the true dragon token to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't reject it, and received the true dragon token. There was still 60% of the dragon blessing left. You killed Taiyun Shuangzi, and your contribution is greater. I can't thank you enough. I owe you one. Shi Qingtian stepped on Taiyun Shuangzi's body and thanked Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had come to find trouble with Taiyun Shuangzi and had also saved Shi Qingtian's life. Shi Qingtian was the most honest amongst the 5 overwhelming prodigies and promised to owe Zhao Feng one. The golden dragon behind Zhao Feng's back continued to expand. Taiyun Shuangzi's dragon blessing was extremely strong, and after absorbing 60%, Zhao Feng's dragon blessing had surpassed Goddess Bingwei and Tantai Lanyue. Crack! Shi Qingtian suddenly used strength and crushed Taiyun Shuangzi's body. Taiyun Shuangzi let out a last scream and died. An overwhelming prodigy had fallen. Tantai Lanyue, who was watching nearby, couldn't help but take a cold breath as her face went slightly white. Her expression was solemn and fearful. She looked at the blue-haired youth standing on the stone pillar on the lonely peak again. Taiyun Shuangzi's death didn't cause any change in Zhao Feng, and he murmured emotionlessly, "It's better to die in Shi Qingtian's hands." Chapter 378. Ancient Colosseum. In the spectator stands, more than 100,000 experts from all over the continent were watching the scene in front of them. From the sacred True Dragon gathering until now, the overwhelming prodigy's name had never been shaken. Who would have thought that an overwhelming prodigy would die in this sacred True Dragon gathering? And it was Taiyun Shuangzi, who was extremely strong. Until the appearance of the black horse, Zhao Feng, everything became possible. He first fought to a draw with Goddess Bingwei, and shook the overwhelming prodigy's position for the first time, before injuring an overwhelming prodigy, and becoming the new overwhelming prodigy. Even now Taiyun Shuangzi's death had a lot to do with him. Although Shi Qingtian had personally killed Taiyun Shuangzi, most people's focus was on the blue-haired youth standing on the stone pillar. Zhao Feng had forced Taiyun Shuangzi into desperate straits, just by using the weakness in his heart. Seeing Taiyun Shuangzi be stomped to death, Zhao Feng's face was expressionless and cold. At this point in time, his dragon blessing had reached the overwhelming prodigy level, and was around the same as Shi Qingtian, but surpassed Tantan Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei. Although Taiyun Shuangzi's battle power is strong, his mental energy level is the lowest amongst the 5 overwhelming prodigies. This is especially true for the flaw in his personality. Using the Eye of the Heart is perfect for this. Zhao Feng started to think about the 4 eye techniques he had comprehended. Eye of Illusion uses mental energy to trap the enemy and doesn't have any direct attack power. Eye of the Heart attacks the weakness of the enemy's mind and can even control those with weaker mental energy levels. Eye of Ice Soul uses the power of the Ice Soul to freeze the enemy's consciousness. Eye of Lightning Fire uses the flame of true spirit in one's body to merge with the power of the god's spiritual eye to attack the physical and mental energy world. The 4 eye bloodlines didn't have an absolute strength. In terms of offense, the Eye of Lightning Fire was obviously the strongest, but sometimes it wasn't as good as the other eye techniques. For example, when he was fighting against Shi Qingtian, he had used the Eye of Ice Soul to continuously lock onto Shi Qingtian. If he had used the Lightning Fire God's Eye, it would have been a waste of effort. For example, against Taiyun Shuangzi, there was an obvious flaw in his personality. In a situation where their mental energy levels were about the same, Zhao Feng used the Eye of the Heart and won in one move without any effort. The 4 eye secret arts are enough for me to deal with most opponents, unless the opponent's realm or strength far surpasses mine. Zhao Feng had a development outline in his mind. On the oval platform, the 9 sovereigns could only watch as Taiyun Shuangzi died, unable to do anything. The sacred True Dragon gathering had already been started by the ancient arena. What a pity! If such a monstrous talent advanced to the primal core realm in the future, his strength would be immeasurable. Since the beginning of time, there hasn't been a single conjoined brother venerable. A venerable couldn't help but say regretfully, an unparalleled prodigy would normally only appear once every few generations. Even though Taiyun Shuangzi was cruel and bloodthirsty, his death still made the venerable sigh. If Taiyun Shuangzi doesn't get rid of the flaw in his personality, it won't be easy for him to become a sovereign. This brat will most likely walk the path of slaughter. Yu Xingchen shook his head faintly, Strength was one aspect, but sometimes one's temperament, willpower, and other aspects were even more important than strength itself in the process of cultivation. Experts needed the heart of an expert to be able to control the power of an expert. This was the relationship between cultivation and mental state. Therefore, cultivation was also a process of cultivating the heart. In terms of personality, there are 3 people in the sacred true dragon gathering that have almost no flaws. The bronze-skinned giant deputy palace lord said slowly. Which 3? Yu Tianhao has unparalleled conviction and confidence. Xian Wuheng is as calm as water. Lastly, there's Zhao Feng. His mental state has always been calm and unyielding even at the most dangerous moment. That's right. These 3 have their own styles and are all perfect. The sovereigns all nodded their heads. If a person had the mentality of an expert, they would become an expert sooner or later. This was probably something that even Zhao Feng didn't expect. The god's spiritual eyes transformation didn't just change his body, it also changed his heart. Of the 3 the deputy palace lord mentioned, Yu Tianhao and Zhao Feng were both overwhelming prodigies, and their battle power was ranked near the top. Xian Wuheng was at least a quasi-overwhelming prodigy, and might even be able to fight against normal overwhelming prodigies. Within the barrier of light, with the death of the older generation, new overwhelming prodigies would naturally take their place. There were still 5 overwhelming prodigies: Yu Tianhao, Shi Qingtian, Zhao Feng, Tantan Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei. Amongst them, Yu Tianhao's dragon blessing was still number 1. Next was Shi Qingtian and Zhao Feng, who were on par. The one with the lowest dragon blessing was Goddess Bingwei. A portion of it had been taken by Zhao Feng in the first round. Zhao Feng, you've saved my life, so I owe you one. This stone heart jade pendant is a treasure of the Shi family, and I'll leave it with you for now. If you need help one day, you can come find me at the Shi family. Shi Qingtian solemnly handed a seemingly cheap jade pendant to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng took the stone heart jade pendant, and found that his sense of the earth yuan qi had increased by quite a bit, and there were other uses for it. The value of this item was probably close to a high-grade spiritual grade weapon. Zhao Feng didn't reject such a good thing. That's good too. When I return to the 13 countries, I'll need help to change the situation of the cloud area. Zhao Feng thought. After saying goodbye to Shi Qingtian, Zhao Feng met up with Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi. Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi still had shock on their faces. Before they had left to find trouble with Taiyun Shuangzi, they were feeling uneasy. However, Zhao Feng had forced Taiyun Shuangzi to the point of no return with just one move. It's good that Taiyun Shuangzi is dead. Many people were killed by him in the sacred true dragon gathering. Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Yi's hatred was vented before they had almost been killed by Taiyun Shuangzi because they didn't hand over their true dragon token. After dealing with Taiyun Shuangzi, Zhao Feng and company returned to the river zone and met up with the Heavenly Yuan clan. Zhao Yufei was still consolidating her cultivation, and Mo Tianyi and Dai Yi were responsible for protecting her. At this point in time, Mo Tianyi and Dai Yi still didn't know of Taiyun Shuangzi's death, and when they heard the truth their hearts shook. For the next 2 days, Zhao Feng and company didn't purposely go out to find their targets. All of them had a true dragon token, and their dragon blessing was strong. Of the 5 overwhelming prodigies, Yu Tianhao occasionally went out. Shi Qingtian was recovering. Tantai Lanyue was also resting and letting her spiritual pets rest. Zhao Feng was comprehending the battle between Yu Tianhao and Xian Wuheng. Only Goddess Bingwei often went out to find genius dragon blessing to strengthen her own. However, the 5 overwhelming prodigies had a large amount of dragon blessing, and the amount of true dragon tokens they obtained wasn't much. This was also the reason why Zhao Feng stopped moving. He sat cross-legged and closed his eyes as he comprehended the intents contained in the battle scenes in the dimension of his left eye. Revolving star passage. Mental energy and mental vitality becoming one. One with heaven and earth. Zhao Feng comprehended the basics of revolving star passage. This intent was especially compatible with the Mystic Flower Treasure Bible. Comprehending revolving star passage would increase Zhao Feng's ability to protect himself against the strong. On the other hand, the fusion of mental energy and consciousness becoming one with nature, could not only stimulate one's potential to an even greater degree, but it could also increase Zhao Feng's mental energy level and root of law. Mental energy, and mental vitality. Becoming one meant that Zhao Feng had basically entered the Tao. One with heaven and earth had touched upon the threshold, and under comprehension, his usage of the power of lightning became more profound. The first day, Zhao Feng comprehended mental energy, and mental energy, becoming one with heaven and earth, and felt that his potential and mental energy level had increased. The second day, Zhao Feng once again comprehended the lightning inheritance and successfully reached the third floor. According to the requirements of the lightning inheritance, one needs to be at the true Lord rank to start cultivating. Now I've succeeded. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. The third floor of the lightning inheritance required one to be one with heaven and earth and lightning. Because Zhao Feng had comprehended mental energy, and mental energy, becoming one with heaven and earth, he was able to cultivate the lightning inheritance. The third floor. The third floor of the lightning inheritance allowed one's every action to control the heaven and earth lightning yuan qi to reach a whole new level. Although Zhao Feng's cultivation had increased and was comparable to the late stages of the true mystic rank, it was still hard for him to use the third floor of the lightning inheritance. Just what level has Xian Wuheng's concept reached? If it wasn't for the fact that his talent is average, and he doesn't have a bloodline, his cultivation would probably be far from the early stages of the true mystic rank. Zhao Feng couldn't help but guess. Before, Zhao Feng's talent was also average, but after obtaining the god's spiritual eye, everything changed. Zhao Feng had personally experienced the slow cultivation speed of those mediocre bodies. Time passed by quickly. The seventh day in the light dimension, the number of true dragon tokens in the dimension kept on decreasing. Some geniuses without a true dragon token counterattacked again, and even formed an alliance to move together. The battle was extremely intense. However, the battle didn't affect the overwhelming prodigies. Once one reached the overwhelming prodigy level, their strength would be close to the true lord rank, and normal numbers wouldn't have any meaning. Therefore, Zhao Feng and company were quiet. Until one day, the number of true dragon tokens in the light dimension had decreased to 100. Wang, the membrane of light trembled slightly, and a huge amount of genius dragon providence was gathered. One could faintly hear the roar of 100 dragons. In the ancient arena, from the oval platform high up in the sky, one could see the silhouettes of 100 dragons soaring in the air. The 5 strongest dragons grew to more than 3 meters in length, forming a powerful image of dragon luck. The dragon luck aura lingered in the surrounding dozens of miles. Apart from that, there were also 5 quasi-overwhelming prodigies whose dragon blessings were all golden, but under 1 yard. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The remaining several hundred geniuses without a true dragon token suddenly disappeared from the light dimension and were teleported out. The remaining 100 were the top 100 of the sacred true dragon gathering and famous true dragon geniuses. Chapter 379. The number of true dragon geniuses in each sacred true dragon gathering was exactly 100. To be called a true dragon genius wasn't just an honor. It also had a practical use, an inheritance. Only the true dragon geniuses, the strongest geniuses of the heaven and earth, had the right to enter an inheritance connected to the continent. Therefore, the True Dragon Top 100 was a huge dividing line. The geniuses that came to participate all hoped to enter the True Dragon Top 100 and become a True Dragon genius. Unfortunately, it was extremely difficult to achieve this. After all, there were several thousand geniuses participating in the sacred True Dragon gathering at the start. How intense would the competition be? Shwa, shwa, shwa. In the light membrane, the eliminated geniuses were teleported away one by one. Finally, only the True Dragon Top 100 and the 100 True Dragon geniuses remained. They were the true favorites of the continent, the true dragons amongst geniuses. Zhao Feng opened his god's spiritual eye and saw that the number of geniuses from the northern continent that had entered the True Dragon Top 100 had exceeded 20, reaching 27 to 28. The east, west, south, North and Middle continents had a total of 100 spots. On average, each side had 20 spots. From this, it seemed that the northern continent's results this time far surpassed the previous 10. Zhao Feng knew quite a few people such as Xian Wuheng, Zhao Yufei, Mo Tianyi, Lu Qinxin, Song Yiyue, Prince Jin, Wang Xiaoguai, Jiang Samfeng, etc. The regretful thing was that Bei Moi wasn't fated to enter the top 100. He hadn't even passed the first round, and it would be hard for Zhao Feng to take care of him. After the True Dragon top 100 was chosen, the ancient arena started to change. Shua, the light in the enormous ancient arena started to shrink and was replaced by pitch black. Ah, what's going on? The 100,000 experts on the spectating stand were shocked and broke out into chaos. The entire ancient arena was pitch black. Only inside the light membrane space it was bright. Wang, the light in the light shook and the ground gave off a slight boom. Immediately following that, at the top of the light membrane space, the clouds in the sky could be seen. There was a feeling of enlightenment, as if the clouds had parted to reveal the blue sky. From this angle, not only could he see the inheritance projection above the ancient arena, but he could also see the towering and majestic stone statue mountains in the surroundings. Can I interfere with the competition? On the oval platform, a supremacy reminded in a low voice. No. The barrier of the light space will reject those without true dragon providence. The white-bearded venerable shook his head and said after testing the waters. From the second round onwards, the Sacred Alliance lost control of the Sacred True Dragon gathering. There were pros and cons to this situation. The good thing was that no one would interfere, and the Sacred True Dragon gathering would be more fair. The downside was that it would cause a lot of casualties. For example, an overwhelming prodigy had died in this Sacred True Dragon gathering. This was something that had never happened in dozens of eras. Where will the ancient arena take the Sacred True Dragon gathering? The deputy temple master, the bronze-skinned giant, murmured to himself with anticipation in his eyes. Bzz. The membrane of light formed by the space field formation slowly rose into the air above the pitch-black ancient arena. Could it be? Sovereign Yu Xingchen's eyes flashed. The enormous shimmering space slowly approached the inheritance projection in the sky above the clouds. Zhao Feng sat cross-legged on the ground and found that the membrane around him was dimming. The earth and mountains were slowly shrinking. In his vision, the inheritances from the outside world were getting closer. Through the scryer recordings in the sky, one could see the scenery of the outer realms, including pavilions and palaces of various styles. There were even some races from the outer realms that one had never seen before, even though the scryer recordings were a bit blurry. Mystic Ice Inheritance. Goddess Bingwei stared at the strongest inheritance projection above her head and was overjoyed. From the start of the Sacred True Dragon gathering until now, close to 10 inheritance projections had descended, and the Mystic Ice Inheritance's aura was the strongest. The appearance of the Mystic Ice Inheritance was good news for those that cultivated the Tao of Ice. Goddess Bingwei was the strongest genius of the Sacred True Dragon gathering and had entered a sub-inheritance of the Mystic Ice Inheritance before. At this point in time, Goddess Bingwei's bloodline and Chi of True Spirit seemed to resonate with the Mystic Ice Inheritance. Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye and bloodline also resonated. After all, his bloodline was leaning towards the ice element. Looks like the Mystic Ice Inheritance is more suitable for me? Zhao Feng murmured in his heart. The 4 great inheritances were all famous in the heavens and earth, and each one was very strong. Thinking up to here, Zhao Feng decided to consider the Mystic Ice Inheritance. However, he was also suspicious as he cultivated the Tao of Lightning and the Tao of the Soul. As for the element of ice, Zhao Feng wasn't sure if his God's spiritual eye would continue to evolve into another element. It seemed that choosing the Mystic Ice Inheritance would be risky. Now's not the time to think about this. Every Sacred True Dragon gathering has 3 parts. There should be one last part. Zhao Feng retracted his thoughts. Soon after, within the spatial zone array, the light barrier disappeared. In the pitch-black ancient arena, near the clouds in the sky, a huge real-life arena appeared. The reason why it was real was because the new stage retained the original terrain, but was smaller. From afar it looked like a floating island. Floating arena. The hearts of the 100,000 experts and geniuses in the spectating stands shook. From the start of the sacred True Dragon gathering until now, the ancient arena had undergone a drastic change. At this point in time, it was a pitch-black world surrounded by mountains of stone statues. The statues of ancient mighty beings seemed to be gazing at the arena spiritually. Above his head was the floating arena, where everyone's attention was focused. Above the floating arena were the projections of some inheritances from the outer realms. The scene in front of them pushed the sacred True Dragon gathering to the peak. The 100 True Dragon geniuses spread out across the floating arena and looked up at the weird scryer images above their heads. The last part is even more different than before. In the previous years, the third segment would determine the True Dragon top 100. They would fight for first place, top 3, top 10, and so on. The sovereigns on the stage looked at each other. Is there no rules again? These are all True Dragon geniuses, 1 in a billion prodigies. The sounds of discussion were endless. The entire ancient arena was pitch black, and only the floating arena, stone statues, and inheritance projections could be seen with the naked eye. Among them, the light from the floating arena was the brightest. The stone statues were slightly dim and glowed weirdly. The inheritance projections were faintly discernible. Just as everyone was guessing and thinking, another change occurred. Rumble. The stone statue mountains surrounding the ancient Colosseum began to tremble slightly and visibly. What's going on? In the primordial Colosseum, the 100,000 spectators were shocked. Suddenly, among the many stone statues, a god statue that was almost 300 meters tall suddenly shone with a strange light. The stone statue was that of a giant ape with 3 heads and 6 arms. At this moment, it seemed as if it had come to life. It was vivid and lifelike, and it emanated an ancient aura that could reach the heavens and the earth. Woo! A deep roar came from the ape statue, and even sovereigns at the origin core realm felt pressured. Shua! The nearly 300-meter-tall ape statue projected a huge ape phantom and entered the floating arena with a whoosh. What a powerful aura! These stone statues are indeed not simple and contain a mysterious power. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye sensed the ape figure. Shua! The ape figure landed on the head of an average-looking youth in the True Dragon top 100. Wang Xiaoguai, the genius from the Canopy Great Country, exclaimed. The True Dragon token in Wang Xiaoguai's hand turned into a powerful aura of a true dragon and entered the ape figure's body. Finally, the True Spirit token cracked, and all the dragon blessing was devoured by the ape figure. Whoop! After devouring the dragon blessing, the ape figure's figure became even more distinct and attached to Wang Xiaoguai's body. Roar! Wang Xiaoguai roared excitedly and beat his chest as if he had been possessed by a demon king. His battle intent rose, and his eyes were filled with comprehension. At this moment in time, the aura radiating from Wang Xiaoguai made the hearts of the other True Dragon geniuses jump and feel an unknown pressure. This is the power of an ancient expert. Heavens! The legends are actually true. These stone statues contain the willpower of some almighty beings, and even some ancient gods. The sovereigns on the stage were stunned and looked at this scene in disbelief. With the addition of the ape figure, Wang Xiaoguai's battle power rose dramatically, and his bloodline was further stimulated as he gave off a terrifying aura. Bam! Wang Xiaoguai waved the gold and silver stick in his hand and sent the nearby True Dragon geniuses flying and spitting out blood. How is this possible? The expressions of these True Dragon geniuses changed dramatically. Wang Xiaoguai's rank and strength were ranked towards the back of the True Dragon top 100. The nearby True Dragon geniuses that had previously crushed Wang Xiaoguai were all sent flying with one stick. Among the stone statue mountains, 2 more god statues projected huge phantoms. One was a black-armored ancient god overlooking the heavens, and the other was a giant demon spirit with a human body and the tail of a snake. Shua! Shua! 2 gigantic illusory images of god statues entered the floating arena. The geniuses of the True Dragon top 100 instantly revealed expectant expressions. The power of this gigantic figure represented the favor of the ancient era's supreme being. Using the power of transcending space, It descended to the ancient Colosseum and possessed the geniuses chosen. It didn't take long for two geniuses to receive the favor of the giant shadow in the stone statue and obtain the ability to transcend space. Their strength increased by more than twofold. At the same time, on the stone statue mountains, many large statues gave off a bright light and started to murmur, roar and roar. All sorts of mysterious powers flashed across the ancient arena. In just a while, almost 10 figures of different shapes and sizes descended upon some of the geniuses. Among them, the phantom of a fairy holding a zither was more than 1,000 feet tall. It landed on Lu Qinshin. The latter closed her eyes, and ancient melodious music seemed to ring in her ears. The descent of the power of transferring across space made almost any genius strength rise dramatically in a short amount of time and reached the level of an overwhelming prodigy. Zhao Feng suddenly sensed something. Amidst the stone statue mountains, there were a few tall and majestic divine statues. They shone brilliantly, their eyes flickering as they stared at him. These god statues were at least 100 yards tall and were much stronger than the previous ones. They seemed to be expectant and tried to communicate with Zhao Feng for his response. Chapter 380. The Sacred True Dragon Gathering was about to welcome its most glorious moment. The mysterious ancient arena, under the stimulation of the large amount of dragon blessing and mental energy battle intent, created an incredible power. The ancient mystery, the battle of legends, might pass through time and space and continue into this great era, where geniuses were as numerous as the stars. On the stage, the hearts of the 9 sovereigns shook as excitement and shock appeared in their eyes. At this point in time, they looked up at the stone statue mountains around the ancient arena with reverence. Towering stone statues stood one after another, with the shortest being dozens of feet tall, and the tallest being hundreds of feet tall. Every stone statue was vivid and lifelike, majestic and majestic. They were in the shapes of beasts, humans, aliens, and all kinds of oddities. They contained an invisible energy that came from the ancient times, as if there were gods, devils, demons, and ghosts watching every move on the ancient stage. The 10 tallest sky stone statues were hundreds of yards tall, and some were even close to 1,000 yards tall. They seemed to stand side by side with the heavens and earth, and had different expressions. Some were domineering, some were calm, and some had wicked smiles. They seemed to represent the glory of a lost legend. These tens of thousands of ancient stone statues piled up to form a boundless stone statue mountain range that surrounded the ancient Colosseum, striking one's mind and vision. Some of these stone statues are ancient experts, and some are gods from the ancient era. Their owners might still be alive, but most of them are dead. However, their mental energy and intent are still in the heavens and earth. The divine abilities of those great powers from the ancient times were truly deep and immeasurable. They were formless and inextinguishable, and through the layout of the ancient arena, they crossed through space and arrived. The sovereigns were filled with respect from the bottom of their hearts. Each of the stone statues in the stone statue mountain range represented a once glorious legend. At this point in time, of the many stone statues, there were around 100 that were slightly brighter. However, the top 10 sky stone statues were still dim and didn't have much of a reaction. Those 10 sky-raising stone statues should have originated from the primordial era. Perhaps they were the gods of the primordial era. However, after the ancient war, the desolate continent shattered and created a storm that ended the ancient era of gods. Sovereign Yu Xingchen stared at the 10 sky stone statues with a special emotion in his eyes. The 10 towering stone statues seemed to stand side by side with heaven and earth, exuding boundless divine power. Perhaps the geniuses in the ancient arena weren't qualified enough for them to descend. In the floating arena, more and more geniuses were possessed by the void transference phantom. Their fighting spirit was stimulated, and their faces were filled with enlightenment. Many geniuses such as Wang Xiaoguai had their bloodline power awakened. The older and purer the bloodline, the higher the chance of resonating with the ancient will. I see. Zhao Feng sensed 2 or 3 invisible consciousnesses that originated from the 3 majestic stone statues in the mountain of stone statues. One of them was over 1,000 feet tall, and it was a three-headed snake king. It was floating among the clouds, and its snake eyes flickered with a dark purple luster. It looked tyrannical and malevolent. The second one was more than 150 zhang tall. It was an ancient armored god of war surrounded by lightning. It held a lightning hammer in its hand, and boundless lightning covered the sky and covered the earth. The third one was a beautiful ice fairy. She stood gracefully on an ice lotus, her fine black hair fluttering in the wind. Around her was a sky full of ice and snow. Logically speaking, the teleportation intent contained within these three stone statues was much stronger than most geniuses. The fact that Zhao Feng was able to resonate with the intent of the three stone statues showed how popular he was. According to Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye, the popularity was related to one's bloodline and the strength of their dragon blessing. For example, Yu Tianhao had 4 or 5 stone statues trying to communicate with him at the same time. Shi Chengtian and Zhao Feng were the same. They resonated with the intent of the 3 stone statues. Tantai Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei had 2. The other geniuses only had 1 stone statue that resonated with them, and none of them had any in a short period of time. Of course, only Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye could sense it. The other geniuses, such as Yu Tianhao and Xi and Wuheng, could also sense it. Which one should I choose? Zhao Feng hadn't made a decision yet. Most of the other overwhelming prodigies hadn't made a decision. This was because the aura coming from the stone statues was becoming stronger and stronger, and more intents were awakening. Roar! Shi Qingtian suddenly let out a loud roar. A 2,000-foot-long, dragon-elephant shadow descended on his body, a terrifying formless aura instantly suppressing the many space-crossing shadows around him. What a strong will to cross space. Zhao Feng felt his body become heavy from far away, and found it hard to breathe. It was as if he was an ant facing a desolate beast. After receiving the power of transferring across space, the genius's battle power rose dramatically, and many bloodlines were awakened. Some even broke through in certain areas. For example, Wang Xiaoguai, who Zhao Feng knew, had his bloodline awakened, and his mental energy level and chi of true spirit had instantly reached the true mystic rank. He was just short of forming his root of law. Behind Lu Qinxin was the figure of a goddess holding a zither. She closed her eyes, and an ancient melody faintly appeared around her. A mysterious aura continued to rise. The power of the music theory of the way of the zither has helped the embryonic form of the root of mystery to condense. Zhao Feng was secretly surprised. Situations like this were common on the floating arenas. Most commonly, it was the awakening of one's bloodline, or the improvement of one's martial art. Ha ha ha! The power of an ancient dragon and elephant. Shi Qingtian let out a loud roar as a powerful and barbaric power surged out. The image of a dracophant behind him allowed him to comprehend a deeper level of the dracophant's power. In a short amount of time, Shi Qingtian's physical strength had doubled. There seemed to be an invisible force field around him that sent the nearby geniuses flying and coughed out blood. Even Tantan Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei were shocked and kept their distance from Shi Qingtian. Shi Qingtian's current strength had surpassed the other overwhelming prodigies, and could even send those of the same rank flying with one punch. At this point in time, all sorts of figures descended onto the true dragon genius, and the ancient arena's dragon blessings aura became stronger. Those figures would absorb the dragon providence and fuse into one, complementing each other. After Shi Qingtian, Tantan Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei both chose the corresponding stone statue's intent, and their battle power rose to a whole new level. Once an overwhelming prodigy obtained the intent, their battle power would definitely reach the true lord rank. What a crazy era! Although the possession of the intent is temporary, most of these true dragon geniuses will improve. What a crazy era! Although the possession of the intent is temporary, most of these true dragon geniuses will improve. This sacred true dragon gathering is indeed shocking. This batch of geniuses will change the future of the continent. The sovereigns on the stage couldn't help but sigh. There's a few geniuses that haven't obtained the intent of transferring across space. The Green Moon Sovereign exclaimed. On the floating arena, Yu Tianhao, Zhao Feng, and even Xian Wuheng, and Zhao Yufei hadn't had the intent of transferring across space. Amongst them, Yu Tianhao, Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei all had the intent of transferring across space. For them, it was just a matter of choosing which stone statue to transfer across space. Weird. Xian Wuheng only has the intent of transferring across space. Why hasn't he chosen yet? Zhao Feng glanced at Xian Wuheng. He felt that Xian Wuheng knew more secrets than him. Yu Tianhao and Zhao Yufei had both received the intent of transferring across space from 4 or 5 stone statues. Yu Tianhao was the number 1 genius of the continent, and his dragon blessing was number 1. On the other hand, Zhao Yufei was far from an overwhelming prodigy, and her intent of transferring across space was on par with Yu Tianhao. Could it be that her bloodline is even higher than Yu Tianhao's? Zhao Feng was secretly surprised. After that, Zhao Feng started to inspect Xian Wuheng again. Xian Wuheng didn't care about the intent that was trying to communicate with him. His eyes flashed with a strange light, and an invisible intent extended out to communicate with the 10 stone statues that were the tallest. The 10 towering stone statues were tall and majestic. Among the stone statue mountains, they stood out like cranes among chickens. However, these sky stone statues were dim and didn't have any reaction. Xian Wuheng first started from the 990-yard tall one. No reaction. The second one was also 900 yards tall. No reaction. The third one was 900 yards tall. No reaction. The 10 sky stone statues were dead silent and didn't seem to have any aura. However, Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye could feel the power of nothingness within them. This meant that it wasn't that the 10 sky stone statues couldn't send their intent of transferring across space, but that they weren't willing. These sky stone statues won't send their intent of transferring across space, so Xian Wuheng has to invite them himself. Zhao Feng's eyes lit up. But could Xian Wuheng succeed? Xian Wuheng still hadn't succeeded on the 5th sky stone statue. These sky stone statues were extremely arrogant, and wouldn't even bother with the overwhelming prodigies of the sacred true dragon gathering. At least they wouldn't send their intent of transferring across space. Since they have the intent of transferring across space, they can definitely come. It's just whether they're willing or not. Maybe they have a target they want, and just need the fated person to invite them. Zhao Feng's heart moved and his eyes lit up. Right at this moment, Yu Tianhao and Zhao Yufei both received the intent of transferring across space from a 200 to 300-yard tall stone statue that surpassed Shurqingtian and the other overwhelming prodigies. With Yu Tianhao's arrogance, he obviously wouldn't think that the largest sky stone statue would need to invite them to descend. The reason he waited for a while was because he wanted the stone statues to send their intent of transferring across space, but there was no reaction. As for Zhao Yufei, she didn't have Yu Tianhao's powerful martial intent, nor did she have Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye, so she didn't understand this level. But relatively speaking, the intent of transferring across space that Zhao Yufei and Yu Tianhao had received was stronger than the other geniuses. As Zhao Yufei and Yu Tianhao chose their own space teleporting thoughts, some of the 10 stone statues grew even dimmer. Frustrated sighs came from them as their psychic awareness gradually dissipated. Yu Tianhao faintly felt something, and his expression changed slightly, but he didn't regret it. While he possessed an unparalleled and powerful willpower and conviction, his vision and temperament were too high, and he would also miss some opportunities. Can Xian Wuheng succeed? Zhao Feng found that Xian Wuheng's intent kept on communicating with the 10 sky stone statues, and no matter how many times he failed, his expression remained calm. According to Zhao Feng's analysis, Xian Wuheng's chance of success wasn't high. Firstly, he didn't have a strong bloodline. Secondly, his dragon blessing wasn't as strong as the overwhelming prodigies. Let me try. Zhao Feng's competitive heart rose and sent out a wisp of mental energy, intent to try to communicate with one of the 10 sky stone statues. Chapter 381. The 10 towering stone statues were like 10 gigantic gods in the pitch-black universe, looking down on the past and present, suppressing all the gods, demons, and ghosts in the mountains of stone statues. After Yu Tianhao and Zhao Yufei made their choice, the sky stone statues became even darker. The first and second statues were completely dark and had fallen into a deep sleep. Those that could be called sky stone statues were at least 600 yards tall. The first three were 900 yards tall and were close to 1,000 yards tall. The other 7 were 700 to 800 yards tall. The first and second statues were extinguished. Zhao Feng's target was the third. His psychic intent easily came into contact with the third sky-reaching stone statue. The result was there was no reaction. The mental energy intent of the sky stone statue had a prideful aura that disdained descending on an ant of the future. Could it be that my bloodline talent is worse than Yu Tianhao and Zhao Yufei's? Zhao Feng didn't give up and moved on to the fourth tallest statue. Failure. No reaction from the fifth. Failure. He continued and failed again. Zhao Feng suffered a big blow. Logically speaking, he had the dragon blessing of an overwhelming prodigy, and his bloodline was at least an ancient bloodline. His chances of success should be much higher than Xi and Wuheng's. It wasn't until the 9th and 10th sky stone statues that there was a slight reaction. However, when the intent of the 2 sky stone statues touched Zhao Feng, they became dead silent and didn't react at all. Zhao Feng, who had failed time and time again, felt a sense of disappointment. However, thinking about how Xi and Wuheng hadn't succeeded yet, he felt better. Meow meow. The little thieving cat hopped onto Zhao Feng's body, its eyes solemn as it stared at the heavenly stone statues. At this point in time, of the 5 overwhelming prodigies, Yu Tianhao, Shi Qingtian, Goddess Bing Wei, and Tantan Lanyue had all received the power of transferring across space. Over half of the true dragon 100 strong had this honor. Being an overwhelming prodigy and a new overwhelming prodigy, Zhao Feng's every action was watched. Why didn't this Zhao Feng receive the space-traversing will? The eyes of some true dragon geniuses twinkled as they revealed gloating expressions. Yes, in this sacred true dragon gathering, Zhao Feng's rise was like a shooting star, and every step he took was like a god. He was the number 1 black horse, and the new overwhelming prodigy. Who knew how many people were jealous of him? Many first-tier experts have reached the peerless prodigy level after obtaining the space-crossing will. Hehe. If this Zhao Feng is unable to obtain the will to cross space, his strength will probably be ranked outside the top 20. Many geniuses were secretly watching Zhao Feng's every move. Zhao Feng was unmoved. Facing the stone statues, his expression was somewhat ugly. Looking at Zhao Feng's expression, everyone could not help but speculate further. Could it be that Zhao Feng did not have the will to cross space to descend? Humph. This Zhao Feng relied on shameless methods to become an overwhelming prodigy. Now he can't obtain the will of an ancient expert. This is karma. Goddess Bing Wei's face was filled with coldness and mockery. There was a large figure of an ice goddess, standing on an ice lotus behind her, that gave off a coldness that could freeze everything. Everything within 1 mile of Goddess Bing Wei was covered in snow and ice. Just her domain alone could freeze normal cultivators at the true spirit realm. She didn't know that the figure that descended on her was something Zhao Feng had considered, but didn't want. Get out of my way! Goddess Bing Wei exclaimed as she turned into a streak of blue light and flew in Zhao Feng's direction. Everywhere she passed, a frightening cold current and freezing air scattered in all directions. The true dragon geniuses were shocked, and all moved out of the way. Although many true dragon geniuses had received the will to cross space, and their strength had risen dramatically. However, the overwhelming prodigy's foundation was strong, and the will to cross space was even stronger. They could still instantly kill normal true dragon geniuses. Shua. One of the 2 true dragon geniuses had slow reactions while the other had a clash of confidence, and were swept by the cold air. The expressions of the 2 true dragon geniuses froze, and they wanted to say something, but found that their bodies were completely frozen and couldn't move. Even the figure behind them seemed to freeze. An overwhelming prodigy is an overwhelming prodigy. No one under the true lord rank can block Goddess Bing Wei's power of ice. The geniuses were filled with respect and wariness as they watched Goddess Bing Wei fly away. Not good. Her target is brother Zhao Feng. Zhao Yufei's complexion changed. Like a spirit sparrow overflowing with colorful light, she tore through the sky and chased after him as fast as lightning. The shadow behind her was a mysterious rainbow butterfly fairy that was overflowing with light. It was magnificent and imposing. Only Yu Tianhao's shadow could compare to it. After receiving the power of transferring across space, Zhao Yufei's mental energy level and skill suddenly rose, and her cultivation broke through to the early stages of the true mystic rank. In terms of speed, Zhao Yufei wasn't any slower than Goddess Bingwei. Qiu! Qiu! The two flawless goddesses leapt towards Zhao Feng's direction. This scene made the other true dragon geniuses dazed. Those with eyes could feel the killing intent from Goddess Bingwei. The enmity between Zhao Feng and Goddess Bingwei had lasted from the first round of the 5 zones until now. Zhao Yufei was worried as she charged towards Zhao Feng. Goddess Bingwei's strength had increased by several folds after obtaining the figure, and her crazy attacks would pose a fatal danger to Zhao Feng. I failed again. The will of the third heaven lifting stone statue is getting weaker and weaker. It's going to vanish soon. Zhao Feng's eyes locked onto the stone statues and failed again and again. Right at this moment, Zhao Feng felt a bone-chilling killing intent, and his heart went cold. Turning his eyes, he saw Goddess Bingwei charge over with a giant figure that gave off a freezing aura. Goddess Bingwei's strength has doubled. Once she comes, I won't be able to take 3 moves. Zhao Feng's heart clenched. He took a deep breath and decided to try one last time. If he failed again, Zhao Feng could only choose another stone statue. At this moment, Zhao Feng's mind, energy and energy all merged into one, and he entered a profound state. It was as if his back was against nature. Mental energy merged into one and become one with nature. Zhao Feng's aura seemed to be born from the heaven and earth, and his mental energy was unprecedentedly empty. Immediately following, all his thoughts gathered on the god's spiritual eye. With the god's spiritual eye as the core, he used his strongest mental energy intent to communicate with the stone statues. Peh! Peh! Zhao Feng's left eye suddenly sped up, and the aura of the god's spiritual eye was sent out along with his mental energy intent. At this instant, many bloodline geniuses in the floating arena felt their bloodline power tremble for an instant, including Goddess Bingwei, who was closing in. Goddess Bingwei was slightly surprised, but didn't put it to heart, and continued to attack the motionless Zhao Feng. In his vision, the blue-haired youth went from the size of a black dot to becoming bigger. Closer, even closer. The aura of the ancient era. Could it be? An ancient cold voice sounded in Zhao Feng's mind with a hint of surprise. If someone was paying attention, they would find that the aura of the third stone statue paused for a moment before starting to rise again. The third sky stone statue was of a foreign race expert covered in greenish-black scales. His eyes were as deep as a bottomless mysterious black hole. He held the azure dragon halberd in his hand, and beneath his feet was a demonic dragon that was covered in black flames. Around him were patches of lotus-like flames that gave rise to black smoke. From afar, it was like a demon lord of hell coldly looking down on the world. Wang! The stone statue suddenly gave off a layer of light and started to brighten, as if it had walked out from an endless land of darkness. In that instant, the auras of the countless stone statues stopped as if they were worshipping the demon lord. At the same time, Zhao Feng successfully communicated with the mental energy intent of the Lord of Darkness Hell. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. Although the ancient era has ended, the power of the bloodline continues to exist in the universe. Even, you are no exception? What an honor it is to be able to fight side by side with an existence like you. A domineering voice sounded in Zhao Feng's mind. Come. Zhao Feng felt that Goddess Bingwei was already 1 mile away from him, and he couldn't delay any longer. Although he knew that the stone statue that looked like the Dark Hell Demon Lord might have recognized him as someone else, as long as he could possess the stone statue's teleportation intent, he would be happy to do so. Zhao Feng bastard die. Goddess Bingwei's face was covered in frost as she pushed out an ice phoenix that was dozens of yards long. It was extremely lifelike, and gave off a chilling aura that froze everything within a mile radius. In an instant, everything within a mile radius turned into a world of ice. Such a terrifying ice secret technique made the geniuses present, including the experts of the older generation, change their expressions. The current goddess Bing Wei's battle power is probably even slightly stronger than the early stage True Lord rank. The owner of these stone statues was once such a powerful existence. Both outside and inside the city were stunned by goddess Bing Wei's battle power. Hiss hiss, Zhao Feng felt a coldness spread through his legs, and the blood in his body almost froze as he breathed out a mist of ice. Right at this moment, rumble! A 9,000 feet tall phantom image broke through the air and entered the floating arena. That unprecedentedly majestic phantom was like an unrivaled demon lord. Black smoke billowed beneath his feet, and the demonic dragon roared. Around him were patches of green lotus flames and black smoke, covering the sky and covering the sun. Oh my god! What kind of existence is that? He's one of the sky-reaching stone statues. It's very likely that his previous owner was a deity from the immemorial era. The supremacies on the oval platform were shocked. The true dragon geniuses on the floating arena found it hard to breathe, as if they were covered by a shadow, and the figure behind them trembled. That's... Goddess Bing Wei leapt over, and an ice phoenix dozens of yards long swept toward Zhao Feng. Although she launched her attack, she was intimidated by an unparalleled demonic might. There was a strong will in the darkness that made her unable to even think of going against it. Fuck off. Zhao Feng felt as if he had a will that could look down on the heavens, and a mysterious power appeared on his body, instantly dispelling the coldness on his body. Bam! With a flash, Zhao Feng's foot landed on Goddess Bing Wei's stomach. Goddess Bing Wei spat out a mouthful of blood and midair. Before she could land on the ground, her figure flashed again. Plop! A blue-haired figure with a towering demonic shadow descended from the sky and stepped on her crotch. Chapter 382. Peng Peng. Zhao Feng's figure landed on the ground. His speed just then was as fast as lightning, and even some of the true lord ranks didn't see it clearly. Goddess Bing Wei was dazed from the beating. The mental energy intent of the sky stone statue was unbelievably strong, and although it had already been destroyed, the remaining intent of the heavens and earth added a mysterious power to Zhao Feng's body. On the stone statue mountain range, every stone statue represented a generation of almighty experts, a generation of legendary glory. Amongst them, dozens of yards was one level, 100 yards was another, and 200 to 300 yards was another. The most powerful of the stone statues were 700 to 800 meters tall. Some were 900 meters tall, and some were even close to 3,000 meters tall. The divine power they possessed when they were alive was boundless. Even if they died, they could transcend the boundaries of time and space to descend. Zhao Feng's figure was without a doubt the strongest. Behind him was a greenish-black scaled giant shadow that looked like a demon lord of hell, causing many of the figures to shiver in fear. For example, under Zhao Feng, Goddess Bing Wei's figure kept on trembling, and the power of the heavens and earth was greatly weakened. Preposterous! This thief actually dared to. Goddess Bing Wei's face was full of humiliation as she raised her head and saw the blue-haired youth's legs. However, Zhao Feng didn't even pay attention to her. His eyes were closed as comprehension flashed through them. The teleportation intent that was attached to his body contained some residual information, an energy aura. Even if it was just a tiny bit, it was 1,000 times more profound than the lightning inheritance. What was special was that the remnant information and aura was closely linked to the genius mental energy, and no matter how profound it was, they could comprehend it. Such powerful intent, battle skills, and power. Zhao Feng had only touched a few broken particles of information energy, but he was already stunned. Unfortunately, the remnant information and aura of power from the sky stone statue didn't match Zhao Feng's element. However, the remnant intent energy was still able to strengthen Zhao Feng's mind and increase his mental energy level. In a short while, Zhao Feng's mental energy level rose by leaps and bounds and reached the peak true mystic rank. Inside the space of his left eye, the frozen deep blue cold pond gradually showed signs of melting. Ripples of light appeared, and its diameter extended to 29 feet. The size of the cold pond was related to Zhao Feng's mental state. The true human rank was within 1 yard, and the true mystic rank within 3 yards. Breaking through 3 yards was the mental energy level of the true lord rank. Zhao Feng could faintly feel that his god's spiritual eye was closer to the aura of the figure behind him. Maybe they came from the same era. Zhao Feng, you shameless, lowly thief. Goddess Bingwei was humiliated and gritted her teeth as she burned her chi of true spirit, and an ice lotus flame surged towards Zhao Feng. Burning his chi of true spirit, Zhao Feng jumped in fright. That ice lotus flame gave him a feeling that it could easily destroy the vitality of his legs. Bang! Zhao Feng's foot landed on Goddess Bingwei's face and sent her body flying dozens of yards before spitting out a mouthful of blood. The instant Goddess Bingwei landed on the ground, a red footprint appeared on her jade-white face. The true dragon geniuses in the floating arena were stunned. The overwhelming prodigy Goddess Bingwei was stepped on by Zhao Feng and then kicked on her face. Zhao Feng didn't show any mercy at all. If it wasn't for the fact that the Mystic Ice Palace is strong, I would have killed her long ago. Zhao Feng kicked Goddess Bingwei away as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Goddess Bingwei's ice lotus flame from burning her chi of true spirit had indeed brought him some danger. Bingwei, don't be rash. The Mystic Ice Queen exclaimed outside the ancient arena. The Mystic Ice Queen felt the killing intent on Zhao Feng's face. If it wasn't for the fact that he was calm, Goddess Bingwei wouldn't just be lightly injured. At this moment, everyone's gazes locked onto Zhao Feng. The 900-yard figure behind him was like a crane amongst chickens. The other true dragon geniuses had figures that were dozens of yards, or even hundreds of yards. Even Yu Tianhao and Zhao Yufei's figures were 200 to 300 yards. In other words, the increase in Zhao Feng's strength and benefits would surpass the other true dragon geniuses. Could this Zhao Feng be first in the sacred true dragon gathering? Some spectators couldn't help but exclaim. Across the floating arena, Zhao Feng's aura was the strongest. His dragon blessing had merged with the figure behind him and seemed to suppress this era. Even some of the sovereigns on the stage were suspicious that Zhao Feng might be able to shake Yu Tianhao's first place. Not necessarily. This sacred true dragon gathering is extremely weird. The final round isn't for the rankings. The bronze-skinned deputy palace lord fell into deep thought. Zhao Feng, you indeed didn't disappoint me. Yu Tianhao laughed. Instead of being surprised, he was overjoyed. It was as if the blood in his body was burning, triggering a peerlessly tyrannical will to fight. It fused with the 300-meter-tall shadow behind him. Although Yu Tianhao's figure wasn't as strong as Zhao Feng's, his mental energy, intent, and belief was more compatible with the power of transferring across space. Unparalleled in the heavens, Yu Tianhao flew over, and all the geniuses retreated and even froze. An unparalleled intent soared into the sky and suppressed the ancient arena. It was more than 10 times stronger than the strongest sword intent from the sacred true dragon gathering. Just this intent alone could injure the true dragon geniuses of the first tier, surpassing the overwhelming prodigies. At this moment in time, Tantai Lanyue Shiqingtian, Goddess Bingwei and company were stunned. No one would have thought that Yu Tianhao's true strength was so strong. Perhaps his ability to transfer across space had also grown. Yu Tianhao sent out a palm strike that seemed to be able to sweep through the world, crushing everything in its path, in an extremely tyrannical manner. There was no path of retreat or defense. An unparalleled attack swept across everything. In the face of this peerlessly powerful will, Zhao Feng's mind trembled and was almost suppressed. Before the opponent's palm even got close, it seemed to end everything. Come, overwhelming prodigy king of this era. Zhao Feng felt as if the figure behind him had a dominating aura that looked down on everything in the world, and a surge of power entered his body. Wang at the same time, a throne of ice appeared behind Zhao Feng. This time, the icy figure was even larger, and its silhouette was even clearer. It wore a crown on its head and held a huge black sword in its hand. It was obvious that after being strengthened by the figure, Zhao Feng's bloodline power had been awakened. Ice lightning raging dragon. Zhao Feng roared as his blue hair blew in the wind. Ice, wind, and lightning wreaked havoc in heaven and earth, and was enough to instantly kill normal true mystic ranks. Amidst the howling of the ice, wind and thunder, a giant dragon was born. It was somewhat similar to the black demonic dragon that the phantom was sitting on, causing the power of ice and thunder to erupt with even more tyrannical power. Unparalleled in the heavens, ice lightning raging dragon. The two terrifying forces that were almost comparable to the peak true lord rank clashed, and sent lightning everywhere, within a 4 to 5 mile radius. Arg! Screams came from the floating arena, as unlucky true dragon geniuses were either killed or injured by the shockwaves of the two terrifying techniques. The two geniuses of the two eras clashed on the floating arena, causing countless true dragon geniuses to dodge in a daze. In the primordial arena, the spectator stands were filled with exclamations. After clashing head-on with Yu Tianhao, Zhao Feng's figure was pushed back dozens of yards, and he forced down a mouthful of blood. His cultivation and foundation was still weaker than Yu Tianhao's. If it wasn't for the fact that he had the advantage of being able to move across space, this palm probably wouldn't just be a light injury. Tongue. Yu Tianhao's figure was pushed back and his body felt numb, making him unable to attack a second time. At this point in time, the two felt troubled and didn't attack a second time. This Zhao Feng has grown to such a level and is able to face Yu Tianhao head-on. Waves appeared in Mo Tiany's heart. Countless true dragon geniuses on the arena were stunned and pulled away from Zhao Feng and Yu Tianhao, afraid of being affected. Wang boom! Suddenly, a weird explosion broke the standoff between Zhao Feng and Yu Tianhao. Out of the 10 towering stone statues, the 7th statue projected a 700-meter-tall silhouette onto Xian Wuheng's body. Hee, even that guy has descended. I'll come out and stretch my bones. A laugh sounded in Xian Wuheng's mind. Behind him was a purple-robed Taoist who looked like a wild crane. Above his head were 3 layers of purple cloud flames, and under his feet was an unknown giant flaming bull. Success! Xian Wuheng revealed a rare look of joy. Under normal situations, his bloodline wasn't strong enough, and it would be hard for him to communicate with the remaining intent within the Sky Stone statues. However, with Zhao Feng as a precedent, his tireless efforts finally had a small chance of success. When Xian Wuheng obtained the sky-reaching stone statue's teleportation power, the situation on the battlefield changed. Xian Wuheng's aura became more condensed and wasn't much weaker than Zhao Feng and Yu Tianhao. He was stronger than normal overwhelming prodigies. A tripartite confrontation? The sovereigns on the stage were interested. The bronze-skinned deputy palace lord fell into deep thought and murmured, "This third trial doesn't look like it's about ranking but more like fortune. What's going to happen next?" Just as he was thinking, the sky above the floating arena suddenly changed. One of the inheritance projections showed signs of solidifying, and it even extended out a bright illusory door that overlapped with the ancient Colosseum. What's going on? Why is the inheritance connecting so quickly? The sacred true dragon gathering hasn't even ended, and the inheritances have connected. The ancient arena was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. I understand. The second round has been decided based on the true dragon genius's providence. And this segment is no longer a competition for rankings, but a competition to enter the inheritance. The Vice Hall Master, who was deep in thought, suddenly came to a realization. Chapter 383. In the ancient arena, more than a dozen inheritance projections had already appeared in the sky. The projection of one of the inheritances from the outer realms was becoming clearer. One could see the mountains, the clouds, the jade palaces, and even the figures of some demon beasts. This inheritance projection extended a bright illusory door that overlapped with the ancient arena. To be more precise, the illusory door was projected above the floating arena. With a pop sound, the floating arena rippled with a watery film-like luster, and a human-sized water staircase extended from the ground to the sky, connecting with the illusory door. From the staircase, one could reach the door of the inheritance. This scene caused the spectators to break out into chaos. What's going on? The inheritances have started to connect? The true dragon geniuses, including Zhao Feng, were surprised. They thought that there would be a battle between tigers and dragons before the inheritances would connect. However, the situation in this sacred true dragon gathering had gone out of control, and the ancient arena was full of variables. So fast. The Heaven's Legacy inheritance hasn't appeared yet. Xian Wuheng's expression changed slightly as he stared at the sky. The inheritances had started to connect, but the Heaven's Legacy inheritance didn't appear. A small number of people were slightly regretful. But thinking about it, it was a once-in-a-lifetime fortune for any one of the 4 great inheritances to appear. The Scarlet Moon inheritance and Mystic Ice inheritance had both appeared in this sacred true dragon gathering. This was already a rare occurrence, even though the former had been taken away by an unknown existence. At this point in time, the true dragon geniuses on the floating arena held their breaths as they stared at the door. The staircase extended from the arena and connected with the inheritance door. With the naked eye, both the staircase and the door seemed to be between an illusory object and a physical object. This is the Northern House inheritance. It's not bad amongst the inheritances that have appeared before, and is at least a level stronger than some of the inheritances controlled by the 10 great clans. The Heaven's Legacy inheritance not appearing is indeed slightly regretful. However, it's hard to say until the last moment. The venerable ones on the oval platform were discussing in low voices, their eyes sparkling. In this great era, the sacred true dragon had broken countless records and created countless miracles. Even though the Tianji inheritance had yet to appear, it was still glorious. Let's go. Although it's not one of the 4 great legacies, the slots for the 4 great legacies are extremely limited. It won't be our turn. Some true dragon geniuses on the floating arena exclaimed, and leapt towards the northern floor inheritance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the start, there were only 2 or 3 true dragon geniuses, but now there were more than a dozen. A genius climbed up the stairs of rippling water and headed straight for the illusory door of the outer realm inheritance. The other 2 true dragon geniuses shouted as they went around the stairs and went through the gate. Poo-pee-you. The 2 true dragon geniuses passed through the door, like they were in a dream, and stood dazed on the spot. Whoosh! The genius who walked down the stairs of rippling water successfully stepped into the illusory door. With a buzzing sound, the illusory door glowed brilliantly, and his figure disappeared without a trace. So that's how it is. We must enter from the rippling water stairs. The geniuses at the back came to a realization and rushed up the stairs. However, the stairs were only wide enough for one person. One had to walk steadily and go through some sort of transition to enter the door of the inheritance. At this point in time, more than a dozen true dragon geniuses fought over the path. Snowy sun, scorching sky, crippling blood, 9 moon blade, void ghost, spatial technique. One after another, the true dragon geniuses used their secret techniques and techniques. Their goal was to pass through the bridge and enter the door of the inheritance. Just think about it. The stairs were only wide enough for one person, but there were more than a dozen people fighting over it. What kind of cruel scene would that be? Blade light, sword chi, palm images, the sound of thunder, the howling of wind, and even the mysterious power of transferring across space enveloped the stairs. Arg! One true dragon genius's body was ripped apart, and he died on the spot. The other 2 groaned and fell down with heavy injuries. Merciless killing. In just a short while, the eyes of the true dragon geniuses were red. This was more cruel than any competition. The last round is for the true dragon geniuses to fight for the inheritance. There are still no rules, and it all depends on one's own strength. Zhao Feng nodded his head in his heart. Of course, there were only a dozen or so true dragon geniuses participating right now. Many were waiting to see what would happen. This was especially so for the 5 overwhelming prodigies, or the first-tier true dragon geniuses. Their goal was even higher, and they hoped to enter a better inheritance, or even the 4 great inheritances. Half the time it took to make tea later. The phantom gate of the northern tower suddenly dimmed after the 5 of them entered. The phantom gradually became transparent and disappeared into the clouds in the sky. 5 spots. No, as these geniuses fight, the door of the northern floor inheritance, will use up a certain amount of energy. Zhao Feng's eyes were very accurate. Every time someone entered, the door would dim a bit, and its stability would decrease. Furthermore, as time passed, the door would use up all its energy. With the limited number of spots, Zhao Feng couldn't imagine how many geniuses would die, and how many would succeed. As soon as the Northern Tower's inheritance disappeared, another inheritance projection projected a door that connected with the floating arena. With the experience from last time, there were 10 or 20 geniuses competing this time. Roars and roars filled the area. The ones competing right now were the true dragon geniuses that were ranked at the bottom of the 50s. The 5 overwhelming prodigies and the first-tier geniuses didn't make a move. In just a while, 2 or 3 people entered the second inheritance, and the door dimmed by more than half. Right at this moment, sharp phantoms appeared near the clouds in the sky. A sharp aura that could penetrate one's soul seemed to have penetrated through time and space. The true dragon geniuses on the floating arena all felt their hearts jump coldly, as if they had been pierced by 10,000 swords. Everyone couldn't help but raise their heads and look at the figure above them. They could faintly see the sky sword pavilions that were filled with sharpness. The world within the figure was filled with multicolored sword lights. That's the 7-sword inheritance. The 9 martial highnesses on the platform blurted out in surprise. The 7-sword inheritance was ranked second amongst the 4 great inheritances, and was only below the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. The instant the 7-sword inheritance descended, an unparalleled sharp sword aura forced the inheritance that was connecting to it away. Boom! The inheritance that was connecting to it dimmed and disappeared from the ancient arena. The 7-sword inheritance is so dominating, it even destroyed the other inheritance. The true dragon geniuses below were shocked and their blood boiled. So, shwa, shwa. The instant the 7-sword inheritance connected, 20 to 30 true dragon geniuses, most of which were cultivators of the Tao of the sword or used swords, charged over. Kill! Fuck off! Those who block me will die. 20 to 30 true dragon geniuses fighting together was a terrifying scene. With the power of transferring across space, each of these true dragon geniuses had at least the strength of the true mystic rank, and most of them were at the early stages of the true mystic rank. This included Xia Xianshang, Song Yuyue and other sword geniuses. Ding 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 Pushu. Sword light and sword light intersected, and the mountains within a few miles were turned to dust. Normal true human rank cultivators that came close would be shattered like paper. Those of the Tao of the sword have terrifying attacks. Even an overwhelming prodigy can be killed by the combined attacks of these 20 to 30 people. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. He gazed at the 7-sword inheritance in the sky and couldn't help but think. Of the 4 great inheritances, the 7-sword inheritance was ranked above the Scarlet Moon inheritance and Mystic Ice inheritance. If I can obtain the essence of the 7-sword inheritance, my attacks will be extremely strong, and I can slash through everything with one sword. Zhao Feng's heart was slightly moved. With his comprehension and learning skills, it wasn't impossible for him to change to the Tao of the sword. But this thought was soon erased by Zhao Feng. My core is the Tao of the soul, which is why I'm compatible with the God's spiritual eye. Although the Tao of the sword is strong, it's too extreme, and my defense isn't as good. Zhao Feng quickly rejected this. There were many abilities and secret skills in the world, and no matter how strong your attacks were, it couldn't change your weaknesses. For example, Goddess Bingwei and Shirqingtian were the bane of sword cultivators. Their defense and control were strong. Goddess Bingwei didn't even wait for others to get close before freezing, or even sealing them in ice. Her attacks were greatly reduced. Shirqingtian used his gravity domain, and his opponents were suppressed by gravity and couldn't even move. Experts of the same cultivation couldn't even use 40 to 50% of their full power. At this moment in time, the competition for the 7-sword inheritance was extremely intense. Song Yuyue and Xia Xianshang weren't the only ones participating. There were other geniuses that weren't weak or even stronger. Even Tuoba Qi, one of the 3 I bloodline families, was competing for it. If I can obtain the seven-sword inheritance and merge the essence of the Tao of the sword with my heavenly piercing eye, even an overwhelming prodigy might not be my match. Tuoba Chi's eyes flashed, and an invisible sharpness would slash through his opponent's throat. Shua. Tuoba Chi was the first to step into the seven-sword inheritance. Sister Yue, your talent in the Tao of the sword is better. I'll block them while you go in. Xia Xianshang burned his chi of true spirit and slashed out waves of ice-blue lotus-shaped sword chi that slashed apart several true dragon geniuses near the entrance. However, this caused him to be surrounded by many sword cultivators, and he instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. Shua. Song Yue glanced gratefully at Xia Xianshang before entering the seven-sword inheritance. At this moment in time, Xia Xianshang couldn't hold on any longer, and his body and mind were both injured. Many of the sword cultivators attacking him had comprehended sword intent. The door of the seven-sword inheritance suddenly closed. It wasn't because there wasn't enough energy, but because it closed by itself. There are only 2 spots for the seven-sword inheritance. The geniuses fighting below were enraged and unwilling, as they watched one of the 4 great inheritances, the seven-sword inheritance, pass by them. Chapter 384. The seven-sword inheritance had only appeared for a short period of time, and had only taken 2 spots before disappearing from the ancient arena. Many true dragon geniuses below, especially those of the sword Dao side. Some even looked at Xia Xianshang with hatred and dissatisfaction. Xia Xianshang had risked his life to give Song Yue the fortune to enter the seven-sword inheritance. His face was pale, but there was a trace of relief on his face. He stared at the elders of the Wanjian house. The spots for the 4 great inheritances are extremely rare. It's normal for the seven-sword inheritance to only have 2 spots. Xia Xianshang looked at the big picture and opened the path for Song Yue, allowing the 10,000 sword clan to obtain a spot for the seven-sword inheritance. This is our fortune. This precious spot may change the fate of the 10,000 sword clan. The elders of the 10,000 sword clan were overjoyed. Back then, Sword Saint Yi Wuxia had obtained the seven-sword inheritance and became the #1 expert in the Tao of the sword. Even the Scarlet Moon religion patriarch was wary of him. This was the 2nd time in the last several thousand years that the seven-sword inheritance had appeared. From this, one could see how valuable this fortune was. Any one of the 4 great inheritances can create a legendary king and change the fate of the continent. The Black Ice Queen stared at the projection of the Black Ice inheritance in the sky with a trace of fascination. After the seven-sword inheritance had left, the Mystic Ice inheritance was without a doubt the strongest inheritance. Bingwei, you must grasp this opportunity. The sovereign Mystic Ice Queen was filled with anticipation and worry. After all, Goddess Bingwei wasn't the only overwhelming prodigy here. For example, Zhao Feng and Exan Wuheng could compete for the Mystic Ice inheritance, and with the help of the figure, their strength would only be stronger than Goddess Bingwei. The Mystic Ice Queen was worried that Zhao Feng would interfere when the Mystic Ice inheritance was opened. After all, Zhao Feng and Goddess Bingwei were enemies in the sacred True Dragon gathering. At this point in time, Zhao Feng stood on the floating arena, with a 900-yard-tall figure behind him. Apart from Exan Wuheng and Yu Tianhao, no one else could compare to him. If there's no suitable Soul Dao inheritance, or lightning-related inheritance, I'll choose the Mystic Ice inheritance. His eyes flashed as he stared at the Mystic Ice inheritance above his head. Although the succession of the 7 swords was powerful, the 5 peerless geniuses did not compete for it. Of course, if Taiyun Shuangzi wasn't dead, he would definitely participate, and if that was the case, Song Yue might not have the chance to enter the 7-sword inheritance. None of the 5 peerless geniuses were proficient in Sword Dao. They only knew a little about it. Under such circumstances, even if they entered the 7 swords inheritance, it would be very difficult for them to gain anything. There was only the most suitable inheritance, not the strongest. The 5 overwhelming prodigies naturally understood this, so they did not compete with each other. However, the profound ice inheritance was different. As long as the cultivation technique of the profound ice inheritance was inclined towards water, ice, or cold, there was a high chance of success. In fact, as long as it was not fire attributed, it was worth a try. Among the 5 overwhelming prodigies, apart from Shi Qingtian, the others could choose to try the mystic ice inheritance, Zhao Feng's bloodline power, and the god spirit. I leaned towards the cold water attribute. The profound ice inheritance was also suitable for him. The 7-sword inheritance and the profound ice inheritance both have certain elemental requirements. However, there are some inheritances that I don't want. For example, the Heaven's Legacy inheritance is a complicated inheritance that suits all sorts of geniuses. Another example is the Scarlet Moon inheritance, which doesn't have any obvious requirements. Zhao Feng continued to weigh the pros and cons. If the 4 great inheritances appeared at the same time, he would definitely choose the Heaven's Legacy inheritance first, followed by the Profound Ice inheritance, the Scarlet Moon inheritance, and then the 7-sword inheritance. Unfortunately, the Heaven's Legacy inheritance didn't appear, and the Scarlet Moon inheritance was taken. This way, Zhao Feng didn't have many choices. In reality, he was looking forward to the Tao of the Soul inheritance. Only those that suited him were the strongest. However, the Tao of the Soul was already extremely rare, even rarer than body strengthening. In the Green Flower continent, the Tao of the Soul was almost lost. Time passed slowly. After the 7-sword inheritance left, 2 other inheritances connected and caused a bloody battle. Finally, only 10 or so geniuses successfully entered the inheritances. None of the 5 overwhelming prodigies moved. There were also fewer geniuses that entered the first tier. Amongst the overwhelming prodigies, Tantai Lanyue and Zhao Feng occasionally looked at the mystic ice inheritance. Yu Tianhao and Xian Wuheng also occasionally glanced over. Goddess Bingwei's injuries had just healed, and seeing this situation, her heart tightened and felt pressured. It depended on the situation. Zhao Feng and Tantai Lanyue both wanted to compete for the mystic ice inheritance. Yu Tianhao and Xian Wuheng had a certain chance. Goddess Bingwei felt great pressure and cursed in her heart. However, Tantai Lanyue and Zhao Feng were both her enemies. Zhao Feng, it looks like you also want to compete for the mystic ice inheritance? Why don't we team up and make sure Goddess Bingwei doesn't have a chance? Tantai Lanyue wore a colorful dress and revealed half of her legs. Her eyes were as bright as crystal as she threw an olive branch to Zhao Feng. In the second round of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering, Goddess Bingwei and Tantai Lanyue also had enmity. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Tantai Lanyue was full of expectation, and her eyes twinkled like crystals as she waited for Zhao Feng's reply. With Zhao Feng's current strength, he was an elite amongst the overwhelming prodigies just below Yu Tianhao. Now that he had the figure of transferring across space, he had the potential to become number 1, or at least stand shoulder to shoulder with Yu Tianhao. If she could team up with Zhao Feng, the other overwhelming prodigies wouldn't be able to stop them, and they would be truly unrivaled. At that time, Tantai Lanyue would definitely be able to enter the mystic ice inheritance and attack Goddess Bingwei. No. Zhao Feng's voice sounded in Tantai Lanyue's mind. Rejected? Tantai Lanyue was extremely surprised, and her face was full of confusion. One had to know. From the first round of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering, Goddess Bingwei tried to kill Zhao Feng. In the second round, Goddess Bingwei teamed up with the other overwhelming prodigies to kill Zhao Feng. In the third round, Goddess Bingwei also tried to kill Zhao Feng but failed. It was fine if Zhao Feng didn't retaliate, but he didn't even give up the chance to suppress Goddess Bingwei. Zhao Feng is cold and heartless. Why wouldn't he be willing? Could it be that he's in love with Goddess Bingwei? Tantai Lanyue's mouth opened slightly. This was the only result she could think of. I alone am enough to suppress her. An emotionless voice added. Tantai Lanyue paused and wanted to retaliate but was speechless. Looking at the blue-haired cold youth not far away, his calm and masculine voice caused Tantai Lanyue's heart to move. Hee. Although this Zhao Feng is cold, he's very manly. His age is similar to mine amongst the overwhelming prodigies. Tantai Lanyue's thoughts ran wild, and her face went red. Different from Yu Tianhao, Tantai Lanue was the publicly recognized overwhelming prodigy of this generation, and was participating in the sacred True Dragon gathering for the first time. There were several elders of the Tantai family present, including an old woman and a beautiful woman. That little girl Lanyu, seems like she's moved? A smile appeared on the beautiful woman's face, and her aura had reached the half-step true spirit realm. The old woman next to her had reached the origin core realm, and nodded her head. This Xiaofeng isn't bad. He has a noble eye bloodline, and in terms of talent, age and cultivation, he's a good match for Lanue. Xiaofeng, who was on the floating arena, probably didn't expect so many families to look at him. Not just the Tantai family. Even those from the 3 eye bloodline families stared at Xiaofeng with fiery eyes. Those with eye bloodlines are suitable for marriage. Third elder, I remember you have a granddaughter. And my granddaughter is already over 80 years old, and there's another 3. 3 is a bit too young. My granddaughter has just turned 10, and is at the 6th sky of the ascended realm. She might be able to try. Zhao Feng's performance in this sacred True Dragon gathering was too eye-catching. His eye bloodline seemed to be showing signs of surpassing the other 3 eye bloodline families. As for powerful bloodlines, some families and aristocratic families were eager to obtain them. On the floating arena, a cold phantom image appeared, emanating a powerful aura that prevented the other phantoms from getting too close to it. The mystic ice inheritances starting to move, the hearts of the true dragon geniuses below sped up and held their breaths, seeing the mystic ice inheritance become clearer. Of the 5 overwhelming prodigies, Goddess Bingwei, Tantai Lanue and Xiaofeng all seemed to move. Apart from that, there were 4 or 5 first-tier true dragon geniuses. My God, there's 3 overwhelming prodigies competing for the mystic ice inheritance. Some of the true dragon geniuses retreated far away. Soon, the profound ice inheritance projected a glittering, icy gate that connected with the rippling water steps. The mystic ice inheritance suits me the best. Goddess Bingwei took a deep breath and instantly activated her chi of true spirit and bloodline power as she flew towards the stairs. At the same time, Xiaofeng and Tantai Lanue both leapt towards the stairs. Xiaofeng will definitely stop Goddess Bingwei. This way I can enter the mystic ice inheritance. Tantai Lanue was overjoyed. She was obviously happy to be able to enter the mystic ice inheritance with a man she liked. However, he didn't know that Xiaofeng had other plans. I'll purposely let Goddess Bingwei enter the mystic ice inheritance, and after she enters I'll try to kill her. Killing intent flashed in Xiaofeng's eyes. Goddess Bingwei had tried to kill him time and time again, and she definitely wouldn't let it go. Rather than suppressing her, it was better to just kill her and get rid of any future troubles. This was also the reason why Xiaofeng didn't work with Tantai Lanue. On the contrary, I'll stop Tantai Lanue from entering the mystic ice inheritance. After all, the spots are limited. There's no evidence of killing Goddess Bingwei in the inheritance, and over 50% of the geniuses that enter inheritances die. Moreover, the sect won't waste too much energy to investigate a dead genius. Before Xiaofeng entered the sacred True Dragon gathering, he had heard the Iron Blood Religion Deputy Patriarch mention the dangers of entering inheritances. Ice Lightning Mystic Flower. Xiaofeng was the fastest and was the first to land on the stairs and unleashed a powerful attack. Boom! With the strength of an overwhelming prodigy and the intent of transferring across space, Xiaofeng's palm suppressed the nearby true dragon geniuses. Pung pung. The geniuses all retreated and many spat out blood in shock. Chapter 385. Xiaofeng stood on the stairs, and his powerful attack stunned the other true dragon geniuses. His attack wasn't aimed at a single person, but swept across all the nearby true dragon geniuses, including those at the first tier, and even overwhelming prodigies. The true dragon geniuses below the first tier were either forced back or injured. 1 or 2 were even killed on the spot. The 900-yard-tall figure attached to Xiaofeng's body, and he was like a demonic lord that stood in the dark of space. His domineering aura swept across the sky as he looked down on the heavens. This Zhao Feng's strength has risen to such a terrifying level in the third stage. He's suppressed all of us by himself? Many geniuses took in a cold breath. Some of the true dragon geniuses participating in the competition were scared and left the competition or watched from afar. Of course, the other two overwhelming prodigies, Goddess Bingwei and Tantai Lanhua, still easily destroyed Zhao Feng's attack. Apart from that, there were several first-tier true dragon geniuses that barely managed to block the attack and closed in from different directions. After all, Zhao Feng's move just now had suppressed the entire battlefield with his own strength. His dominance had left a shadow in many people's hearts. Go! Goddess Bingwei's eyes were cold as she ordered the ghost-eyed man and Qin Kunwu of the first tier to attack Zhao Feng together. How could Goddess Bingwei not be prepared for the mystic ice inheritance? Before this, she had roped in Zhao Feng's enemies, the ghost-eyed man and Qin Kunwu. The ghost-eyed man and Qin Kunwu had both been defeated by Zhao Feng in the second stage and taken their true dragon token. Of course, with their strength, they would be able to take someone else's true dragon token. This was especially so for the ghost-eyed man, who was extremely jealous of Zhao Feng. Now, with Goddess Bingwei's promise, the two quickly stood on the former's side and faced Zhao Feng together. This Zhao Feng is too arrogant. We have to suppress him. The ghost-eyed man and Qin Kunwu attacked together to help Goddess Bingwei. Ghost mist shrouded the heavens. The ghost-eyed man's eyes flickered with ghostly flames. In a flash, a large patch of ghostly fog enveloped the area where Zhao Feng was. The ghostly mist was extremely corrosive, and according to the ghost-eyed man's will, it could produce ghostly flames in any area, no longer targeting the mental plane, but the physical plane. As soon as he made his move, he knew that the ghost-eyed man had analyzed Zhao Feng thoroughly and used the best strategy. Zhao Feng was basically immune to mental energy attacks, and he could even ignore mental energy attacks of a similar level. This ghost mist sky was an eye bloodline technique that focused on trapping and killing. It originally had the ability to create illusions, but the ghost-eyed man had considered Zhao Feng's characteristics and had used mental illusions to strengthen the mist and flames. Universal demon capturing palm. Qin Kunwu emitted surging sounds of thunder, and his eyes were like brilliant stars. Under the support of the space-traversing phantom, he slapped out an enormous palm that was 300 m in circumference, and it seemed to be forged from violet, copper, and gold. It carried a vast righteous aura that could suppress the heavens and the earth and annihilate all devils. Under the protection of the space-traversing phantom, both the ghost-eyed man and Qin Kunwu had reached the original overwhelming prodigy level. Furthermore, both of them focused on trapping and restricting Zhao Feng. The main attacker was obviously Goddess Bingwei. Her arms danced as she sent out waves of ice lotus flames that could instantly freeze anyone below the true lord rank. Her chi of true spirit was in a half-burning state. The ice lotus flames converged to form a lifelike ice phoenix, and the faint cry of a phoenix reverberated through the air. Zhao Feng felt a bone-chilling coldness seep into his mental energy dimension, and his chi of true spirit showed signs of being frozen once again. He had been frozen by Goddess Bingwei once, and the ice lotus flames had formed a flaming ice phoenix that was several times stronger than before. Apart from that, Qin Kunwu and the ghost-eyed man's attacks also restricted him. Wang, Zhao Feng's blue hair blew in the wind as a tall figure of ice appeared behind him. It had a crown on its head and held a giant black sword. Below it was an ice throne. With the addition of the crown and the giant black sword, it was clear that Zhao Feng's bloodline power had become even stronger. Ice lightning raging dragon. Zhao Feng didn't retreat. The 900-yard-wide figure behind him moved, and the power of ice and lightning intertwined with each other, forming a raging dragon of ice and lightning that could devour heaven and earth. Pung bung 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 long. The clash of the two even caused the mystic ice inheritance above them to become unstable. Kacha! Goddess Bingwei's flaming ice phoenix was torn apart and devoured. Her body retreated 2 steps as numbness spread throughout her body. Qin Kunwu and the ghost-eyed man's attacks were instantly shattered and couldn't even get close. What? Retreat! As the two of them cried out in alarm, they were struck by the ice, thunder, and lightning snakes formed by the aftermath. Their figures retreated rapidly, and their limbs became numb and stiff, almost losing the ability to move. With a pong, the ghost-eyed man was sent flying, and his body was scorched black before being frozen into an ice stick. No one knew if he was alive or dead. Chin Kun was spat out a mouthful of blood, and barely managed to stay alive. The black horse that he didn't think highly of before had reached such a level, and was treating him like an ant. Just the shockwaves from a battle of this level had caused him to be heavily injured. Of course, this effect wasn't just because Zhao Feng was stronger than him as an overwhelming prodigy, but also because of the 900-yard-tall heaven-striding figure. Zhao Feng, why did you? Tantan Lanyue's voice was filled with panic and grievance. She rode her spirit beast and wanted to take advantage of the situation, but didn't expect Zhao Feng's attack to also target her. At this point in time, Zhao Feng's dominating move pushed back two overwhelming prodigies and severely injured two first-tier geniuses, scaring away the geniuses that wanted to take advantage of the situation. How can this Zhao Feng be so strong? Two overwhelming prodigies and several first-tier geniuses were suppressed by him alone. The situation isn't good. Doesn't this mean that Zhao Feng is unrivaled? The true dragon geniuses present, regardless if they were participating or not, were all stunned. In the distance, Yu Tianhao's black eyes were filled with excitement. His will to fight had been stimulated, and there was an invisible force in his bloodline. His will and faith increased greatly, helping to strengthen the shadow behind him. Xian Wuheng didn't move, and he looked at Zhao Feng with a complicated gaze. Back at Sunfeather City, when he fought with Zhao Feng, he already knew that this youth wouldn't be simple in the future. He then left and easily broke through to the Ascended Realm with his own hard work. He then went on a long journey and killed wild beasts. Before he reached the Great Country, he had already reached the half-step True Spirit Realm. At this point in time, Xian Wuheng thought that this youth was very far away from him, and his impression of him was becoming blurry. However, in less than a year or two, the youth that copied his moves appeared once again. It wasn't hard for Xian Wuheng to see that Zhao Feng's moves contained the essence of his blood, sweat, and tears. I have incomplete memories from my past life, and I've spent a lot of effort to get to where I am now. But he stole my rewards. Xian Wuheng felt slightly depressed. Ever since he was born, Xian Wuheng had strange memories that would often appear in his dreams. As he grew older, the memories became more and more, as if he was another him. This was a secret that he had hidden for many years. He had no talent and no bloodline, but he was still able to reach the peak of the continent. At this moment, with the help of the figure, he seemed to be on par with Zhao Feng and Yu Tianhao. The memories also mentioned the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. This is the most ancient and mysterious inheritance in the heavens and earth. Even a small part of it would bring endless benefits. Furthermore, the creator of the Heaven's Legacy inheritance, the Heaven's Legacy race, is one of the top-ranked races of the 10,000 ancient races. Xian Wuheng's knowledge surpassed all the other geniuses. However, the sacred True Dragon Gathering had almost reached its end. The other three inheritances had all appeared, but the Heaven's Legacy inheritance still hadn't appeared. The legacy of Heaven's secrets, the origin of Heaven's will, the arrival of destiny, fate, endless good fortune. Xian Wuheng couldn't help but murmur some weird words. There was a subtle fluctuation in his words, as if it had touched some kind of pulse. At this moment, Zhao Feng was fighting Goddess Bingwei, Tantai Lanyue, and the other true dragon geniuses by himself. Damn you, Zhao Feng. You don't want to go in yourself, and you want to stop my fortune. Goddess Bingwei gritted her teeth in anger as she pushed her Mystic Ice secret technique to the maximum. It wasn't hard for the other geniuses to see that Zhao Feng was purposely suppressing Goddess Bingwei. Tantan Lanyue was on the side and messaged, Zhao Feng, you're suppressing Goddess Bingwei. How come I'm also involved? If I let you go in, Goddess Bingwei will take advantage of this. Zhao Feng said. His true goal was to stall the two overwhelming prodigies and force Goddess Bingwei into a corner. She would definitely kill him, and then let her enter the Mystic Ice inheritance. Finally, Zhao Feng and Goddess Bingwei had to be guaranteed to enter the Mystic Ice inheritance. That was the only way he could kill Bing Wei in the inheritances of another realm. Buzz! The clouds in the sky above the primordial Colosseum suddenly produced a strange vibration. It was invisible to the naked eye, but the mind's senses gave off the illusion of overlapping space, constantly colliding with each other. What? That's... The hearts of the 9 sovereigns jumped and they all raised their heads. In the void, there were layers of overlapping scryer images. There was a strangely tall clock tower that pierced through the clouds, a puppet giant that could shake mountains, a mysterious celestial tower that had existed for a very long time, and there were even ancient warships and floating islands that floated in the air. Countless flickering shadows overlapped each other, as an ancient aura filled the entire ancient Colosseum. The scryer images were weathered and dilapidated, as if they had come from ancient times. The instant the inheritance image appeared, all the inheritance projections present faintly shook. Even the mystic ice inheritance was suppressed, and the number of images decreased by a third. Heaven's legacy inheritance. The 9 sovereigns exclaimed, and some of the more experienced experts exclaimed. Could it be the Heaven's legacy inheritance? The projection of the Tianji inheritance descended into the void above the clouds. Ignoring the rules of the ancient arena, it opened up a mysterious azure door that seemed to lead to the other side of time and space. Chapter 386. The azure light door wasn't in an illusory state. It actually existed and was different from the other doors. When the mystic ice inheritance connected, the Heaven's legacy inheritance opened a door above the floating arena. It didn't need to use the stairs, and ignored the rules of the ancient arena. Just from this alone, one could see that the Heaven's legacy inheritance surpassed the other great inheritances by more than just one level. This sudden change stunned many of the true dragon geniuses present. The Heaven's legacy inheritance's descent was too sudden, and the instant it descended, it opened a door. Many geniuses didn't react in time. What an ancient aura! It's definitely the Heaven's legacy inheritance. Zhao Feng felt the mystic ice inheritance above his head tremble unsteadily. Of the 4 great inheritances, probably only the most ancient and mysterious Heaven's legacy inheritance had such power. But at the same time, Zhao Feng cursed in his heart. Why did the Heaven's legacy inheritance have to appear now of all times? The moment the Heaven's legacy inheritance appeared, the door was opened, and it was a certain distance away from Zhao Feng's side. This put him in a difficult position. Correspondingly, the Heaven's legacy inheritance was closer to some true dragon geniuses. Ha ha ha. Great. The Heaven's legacy inheritance has appeared in front of me. Looks like I'm the fated one. The 2 closest true dragon geniuses were overjoyed as they leapt towards the mysterious azure door. So. The other true dragon geniuses stared at the 2. They were enraged and unwilling to give up. Wang! The azure door shook and sent the 2 true dragon geniuses flying with a mysterious power. What's going on? The smiles on the 2 true dragon geniuses froze, and were extremely ugly. Ha ha ha. The Heaven's legacy inheritance isn't a place anyone can enter. The true dragon geniuses in the distance understood, and were overjoyed. So. Many true dragon geniuses on the floating arena quickly closed in on the azure door. Wang, another true dragon genius, was sent flying by the door, and his expression changed slightly. In just a few breaths, the Heaven's legacy inheritance became the center of attention, and many true dragon geniuses leapt over. Amongst them included Yu Tianhao, Xian Wuheng, and Shiqing Tian. The 3 sky prides immediately engaged in a fierce battle in front of the ancient green light gate. Which one should we choose? Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled. Goddess Bing Wei and Tantai Lanyue also hesitated for half a breath. Without a doubt, the Heaven's legacy inheritance was at least a level higher than the profound ice inheritance. The inheritances inside were not limited to schools and techniques. As the most ancient and mysterious inheritance, the Heaven's legacy inheritance might contain a soul Dao inheritance. However, if Zhao Feng were to give up on the profound ice inheritance and fight for the fortune inheritance instead, he would have to bear a greater risk. He might even miss out on both inheritances. This was because there was a certain distance between the profound ice inheritance and the heaven's legacy inheritance. At this moment, the entrance of the Tianji inheritance was being controlled by Yu Tianhao, Xian Wuheng, and Shi Qingtian. They could enter at any time, and in the connection of the Tianji inheritance, all the great inheritances had a limited number of slots, which was suitable for the 4 great inheritances. Once I choose the heavenly legacy inheritance, I'm destined to miss out on the profound ice inheritance. Zhao Feng's thoughts spun rapidly. He seemed to have thought a lot, but it was not even a tenth of the time it took for him to blink. Suddenly, decisiveness and sharpness appeared in Zhao Feng's eyes. Right at this moment, Tantai Lanyue and Goddess Bingwei used their full power to attack Zhao Feng. A crystal-clear ice sword appeared in Goddess Bingwei's hand and slashed out rays of icy light. With the help of the figure, the invisible sword slashed into the mental energy dimension first. Tantai Lanyue waved her rainbow whip and commanded the horned earth dragon beast. She bit her teeth and attacked Zhao Feng without holding back. Boom! Zhao Feng was annihilated by the attacks of the 2 overwhelming prodigies. Shua! A streak of lightning could be seen with the naked eye as it flew towards the direction of the heavenly legacy inheritance. As expected, Tantai Lanyue wasn't surprised. She didn't think the 2 of them together could threaten Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's target was even higher, the most ancient and mysterious heavenly legacy inheritance. Shua! Tantai Lanyue rode the horned earth dragon beast and used its large size to push Goddess Bingwei aside and enter the mystic ice inheritance first. After one person entered, the door of the mystic ice inheritance dimmed a bit. Goddess Bingwei's expression changed slightly, and just as she was about to enter, she felt a pain in her mind. Lightning Fire God's Eye. A half-transparent azure lightning fire landed on Goddess Bingwei's body. Caught off guard, the power of the lightning fire spread throughout her body and burned her soul. With the figure, Zhao Feng's lightning fire God's Eye's power reached a whole new level. Even those at the true lord rank would find it hard to retreat unscathed. Adding on that Goddess Bingwei had let down her guard and was caught off guard. This lightning fire God's Eye did a lot of damage to her. Who would have thought that Zhao Feng would use a lightning fire God's Eye when he retreated? Yufei, quickly enter the mystic ice inheritance, Zhao Feng warned Zhao Yufei not far away. He had used the lightning fire God's Eye to suppress Goddess Bingwei. He originally wanted to leave a spot for Zhao Yufei to enter the mystic ice inheritance. This plan was completed in a blink of an eye. Since he had given up on the mystic ice inheritance, he couldn't let Goddess Bingwei have it. Zhao Yufei originally had the strength of a quasi-overwhelming prodigy, and her teleportation figure was stronger than Goddess Bingwei's. More importantly, she had broken through to the early stages of the true mystic rank as her cultivation rose. Now that Goddess Bingwei was injured, Zhao Yufei had a high chance of taking the former spot. That's right. Zhao Feng's plan was perfect. It could attack enemies and help friends at the same time. But the problem was, something had also happened on Zhao Yufei's side. While the other true dragon geniuses were fighting for the inheritance, Zhao Yufei didn't move. She sat cross-legged with pain on her forehead, and the qi of true spirit within her body vibrated and resonated with the heaven-earth yuan qi. Zhao Yufei's entire body contained the purest qi of true spirit, and with the addition of the figure her cultivation suddenly rose, and her qi of true spirit rose once more. At the same time, her bloodline power changed. Wah! Zhao Yufei suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and a trace of fine markings of light faintly appeared on her skin that was pure white like jade. Azure, violet, red, blue. It changed without end. Yufei. Zhao Feng's expression changed slightly, and his footsteps stopped. He immediately opened his god's spiritual eye and inspected Zhao Yufei's situation. The sudden increase in cultivation, the collision of the qi of true spirit. She needs an outlet, and the change in her bloodline. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye was more accurate than any doctor's. Right at this moment, a figure flashed in the azure door below the heaven's legacy inheritance. Shua! Xian Wuheng stepped through the azure door and became the first true dragon genius to enter the heaven's legacy inheritance. The door to the heaven's legacy inheritance was extremely weird, and Xian Wuheng, had tried at least 3 times before successfully entering. Yu Tianhao had also tried 3 times and Shi Qingtian had tried 2 times, but hadn't succeeded. Hee. After several tens of thousands of years, another person has entered the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. With Xi and Wuheng's comprehension and fortune, he'll definitely have the ability to rule the heavens in the future. The future of the continent will be changed by the 10,000 Origin clan. The upper echelon of the 10,000 Origin clan were overjoyed. The other forces of the continent were envious and sighed as they stared at the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. Luckily, after one person entered, the azure door to the Heaven's Legacy inheritance was still stable and didn't close. There's still a chance. The 10 great clans, families and even the sovereigns of the Sacred Alliance were expectant. At this moment, the Heaven's Legacy inheritance became the focus. As for the Mystic Ice inheritance, it had disappeared. In this sacred true dragon gathering, the 4 great inheritances appeared one by one. The Heaven's Legacy inheritance became the last part of the competition and was full of surprises and twists. Zhao Feng used his time and headed towards the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. Meow meow. At the same time, a little silver cat turned into a blur and landed next to Zhao Yufei. Zhao Feng's thoughts spun, and he made the decision to fight for the Heaven's Legacy inheritance himself and let the little thieving cat take care of Zhao Yufei. Yu Tianhao's silhouette flashed as he passed through the ancient blue light door and disappeared. After Xi and Wuheng, Yu Tianhao was the second to enter the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. At this crucial moment, Zhao Feng had also arrived. Shi Qingtian was instantly a little anxious and fiercely slammed against the ancient green light door. In the end, he was jolted open again. Let me try. Zhao Feng forcefully pushed away the true dragon geniuses and turned into a blur as he charged towards the azure door. Zhao Feng was also smashed open by the azure door. He wasn't surprised and opened his god's spiritual eye to inspect the azure door. Before, Xi and Wuheng and Yu Tianhao had also tried several times before entering the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. Right at this moment, Zhao Yufei, who was sitting cross-legged in the distance, groaned in pain. Colorful runes of light appeared on her skin, making her look brilliant. Pa! The little thieving cat seemed to think, and waved its paws on either side of Zhao Yufei's back. Wang! Zhao Yufei let out a delicate shout. Rays of light blossomed from the part of her back that was hit, and a pair of translucent light wings extended out, emitting a faint lustrous brilliance. As the pair of translucent wings extended, the qi of true spirit within Zhao Yufei's body finally had an outlet. At the same time, her aura rose to a whole new level. Thank you. Zhao Yufei looked gratefully at the little thieving cat with lingering fear. Meow meow. The little thieving cat suddenly sensed something and threw out several copper coins. They flew around in the air, clanging and clanging. In the next instant, woo, boom, the entire ancient Colosseum, and even the void itself shook slightly. Zhao Yufei sensed something and raised her head along with the little thieving cat. At this moment, the Heaven's Legacy inheritance above the arena started to shake, and a weird Jiji sound came from the air. Immediately following, a strange floating image that blotted out the sky and covered the sun, mysterious, deep and boundless, was born. When looked at from afar, it was like a deep pool of a mirror lake, and it was multicolored, gorgeous, and rippled with various ripples. Bam! The most ancient and mysterious Heaven's Legacy inheritance had been forcefully smashed apart by the mysterious and unknown inheritance shadow. Chapter 387. The Ancient Arena. The entire sky seemed to be enveloped by the magnificent and dazzling figure of the unknown inheritance. It seemed to have the power to cover the sky. The void of the ancient arena trembled slightly, showing signs of instability. Looking from a distance, the inheritance projection was like the surface of a lake, rippling as if it was projecting the scene from the other end of space to this end. It looked like a mirage, but it wasn't that simple. Everything felt so real. Pung! Even the Heaven's Legacy inheritance was forcefully pushed aside by the unknown inheritance. A few small inheritances nearby were directly destroyed. Hua! Such a shocking change shook the entire sacred true dragon gathering. Tongue. The 9 venerables stood up almost at the same time and sized up the unknown inheritance with fear and solemnity. It was certain. The inheritance in front of them had never appeared in the history of the Azure Flower Continent. With the Azure Flower Continent's capacity, how can such a powerful inheritance appear? The usually calm bronze-skinned Deputy Palace Lord's expression changed. Ever since the ancient arena started the sacred true dragon gathering, the Sacred Alliance had lost control. Everything was developing in an unknown direction and trajectory. What was the origin of this unknown inheritance? Why did it appear in the Azure Flower Continent? Deputy Palace Lord, the aura of this inheritance is extremely unique and is extremely compatible with the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi. Therefore, it can barely descend into the Azure Flower Continent. The white-bearded sovereign was obviously proficient in arrays and quickly said. The 9 sovereigns all guessed that there must be some reason for the mysterious inheritance to descend. This was one of the reasons. Dao Sovereign Baiyun stared at Zhao Yufei with an expression of excitement and nervousness. Zhao Yufei sat cross-legged on the spot, and a pair of translucent light wings extended from her back, emitting a faint lustrous glow. With the little thieving cat's pointers, Zhao Yufei's danger had been resolved, and her cultivation had stabilized. Only the bloodlines of the 10,000 ancient races have the power to summon an unknown inheritance. In comparison, all the other bloodlines including the 3 families are nothing. Dao Sovereign Baiyun was certain of the truth. However, he had always kept this secret because the bloodline inheritance of the 10,000 ancient races was too shocking. Once it was revealed, not only the Heavenly Yuan sect, but the Sacred Alliance, and even the entire Azure Flower Continent would be in danger. Whoosh! The heavenly secret inheritance produced a strange aura that flickered between light and dark. Under the mysterious inheritance, it dimmed and disappeared. That unknown inheritance, could it be because of Yufei? Zhao Feng didn't even notice the disappearance of the Tianji inheritance. Instead, he was shocked by the existence that knocked away the head of the 4 great inheritances. Could it be, in this world, there was an inheritance that was even more powerful than the Tianji inheritance? It seems like the source has something to do with Zhao Yufei. The bronze-skinned giant looked at Dao Master Baiyun meaningfully. The latter was Zhao Yufei's master. I can't believe that the legacy broke the legacy of Heaven's legacy. The legacy of Heaven's legacy has disappeared. Does that mean it's even stronger than the Tianji inheritance? Green Moon Venerable asked curiously. Not necessarily. The Heaven's legacy inheritance is famous both in the continent and outside of the continent. However, the Azure Flower Continent can only contain the Heaven's legacy inheritance, while the unknown inheritance is of a higher level. It has surpassed the limit of the continent, but it was still able to descend. This shows how special it is. Sovereign Yu Xingchen said. His son, Yu Tianhao, had just entered the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. Everyone was confident in the Heaven's Legacy inheritance. The 9 sovereigns all agreed that the unknown inheritance might not be stronger than the Heaven's Legacy inheritance, but it would definitely be of a higher level. Rumble. The unknown inheritance slowly descended like a mirror-like lake, but it did not immediately open the entrance passageway. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its mystic snake blood whip and stood on Zhao Yufei's shoulder as it signaled to Zhao Feng. The little thieving cat wants me to go over? Zhao Feng instinctively went over without hesitation. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wave of magnificent ripples arose from the unknown inheritance that was like a mirror-like lake. The ripples grew larger and larger, finally forming a double helix-colored vortex that extended towards Zhao Yufei like a dragon and a snake. Zhao Yufei cried out in alarm. Her body felt an indescribable attractive force that was difficult to resist. She was slowly pulled towards the colorful vortex. Yufei! Zhao Feng exclaimed as he grabbed at Zhao Yufei. However, the speed of the whirlpool was too fast. By the time Zhao Feng reached, half of Zhao Yufei's body had already been pulled in. What was even stranger was that the whirlpool had no attraction to anyone other than Zhao Yufei. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its whip. The mystic snake blood whip extended into a whip that was dozens of yards long. One end wrapped around the thieving cat, and Zhao Yufei while the other wrapped around Zhao Feng's arm. As a result, as long as the whirlpool pulled in Zhao Yufei, it would definitely pull in Zhao Feng. Haha, thieving cat. Good job. Zhao Feng was overjoyed as he understood the little thieving cat's intentions. The unknown inheritance originally belonged to Zhao Yufei. However, with the little thieving cat's help, it had pulled in Zhao Feng. Shua. Zhao Feng used the power of the mystic snake blood whip to fly next to Zhao Yufei and tried to enter the unknown inheritance together. Wang the whirlpool created a profound power that wanted to push Zhao Feng away. However, the little thieving cat's methods were even more shameless. Shua. The mystic snake blood whip spun and bound Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei together. This way, the whirlpool could attract Zhao Yufei, but not Zhao Feng. Whoosh! Zhao Feng instantly hugged Zhao Yufei's soft body as a sweet fragrance entered his nose. The two fell into the whirlpool at the same time. Zhao Yufei's face was red and she felt suffocated, but also happy and warm. Meow meow. The little thieving cat laughed evilly as it was bound between the two. Good job, little thieving cat. Zhao Feng laughed and didn't sense Zhao Yufei's abnormality. However, before he finished speaking, a chaotic feeling appeared in his body. It was similar to using the Northern Star Stand's teleportation array, but more than 100 times stronger. Ancient Colosseum. Shua. Shua. Zhao Feng, Zhao Yufei, and the little thieving cat were sucked away by the whirlpool. Wang. The mirror-like projection of the unknown inheritance quickly dimmed and faded from the sky above the ancient arena, disappearing without a trace. The remaining true dragon geniuses on the floating arena were dazed. The appearance of the unknown inheritance and sucking away Zhao Yufei and Zhao Feng had all happened too quickly. Most people didn't even have time to react. It wasn't until another inheritance connected with the arena did the true dragon geniuses start to fight for it. At this time, the sacred True Dragon gathering had come to an end. The 9 sovereigns on the stage looked at each other. There were too many surprises in this sacred True Dragon gathering. This is probably the most glorious era ever. The 4 great inheritances have appeared, and an unknown inheritance has appeared. Xi Wuheng and Yu Tianhao have entered the Heaven's Legacy inheritance, while Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei have entered the unknown inheritance. I wonder who will rule the continent in the future. The entire ancient arena was filled with incessant discussions. For the over 100,000 spectators, this sacred True Dragon gathering wasn't a wasted trip. If they didn't come, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. It could be predicted that this sacred True Dragon gathering would shock the past and dazzle the present. The deputy patriarch of the Iron Blood religion stared at the direction of the unknown inheritance and murmured, Zhao Feng, your luck isn't bad. The level of the unknown inheritance is even higher, and I believe that with your eye bloodline, you won't return empty-handed. Amidst the discussions, the sacred True Dragon gathering came to an end. The Sacred Alliance immediately held a secret meeting. The bronze-skinned deputy palace lord led the meeting. Long story short, the sacred True Dragon gathering has come to an end, and the geniuses that entered the inheritances won't come out for a while. The first thing we need to do is solve another matter, the bronze-skinned giant said solemnly. Most of the participants were at the Origin Core realm. The Sacred Alliance only had a small group of people, but they controlled the fate of the billions of lives on the continent. The sovereigns present all knew what they needed to solve. The Scarlet Moon demonic religion stole the sacred True Dragon gathering's success and took away the Scarlet Moon inheritance. We need to find their base as soon as possible. The Scarlet Moon demonic religion has probably successfully opened the Scarlet Moon inheritance and is planning to invade it. If that's the case, there will be endless danger. The sovereigns started to discuss. Controlling an inheritance, and even entering that inheritance was something unimaginable. The Scarlet Moon Patriarch had once controlled the secrets of the Scarlet Moon inheritance. Once he revived, anything was possible. Just the Scarlet Moon demonic religion isn't scary. Back then the Scarlet Moon Patriarch was able to sweep across the continent with shocking speed, and he had the support of other forces. Deputy Palace Lord, you mean the Moon Demon Palace? If I remember correctly, The Moon Demon Palace is far from the Azure Flower continent. This area, and the other smaller regions including the Azure Flower continent, are all controlled by the Three Saints Palace. The Moon Demon Palace was a 2.5-star force in the past after all. Back then, they only pushed it slightly, and it almost allowed the Scarlet Moon demonic religion to conquer the continent. If it wasn't for the fact that the Moon Demon Palace was too far away, and the Three Saints Palace sent reinforcements to the Sacred Alliance and the 10 great clans, the result would have been unimaginable. The bronze-skinned giant's expression was solemn. Deputy Palace Lord, you suspect that the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, taking away the Scarlet Moon inheritance, was secretly pushed by the Moon Demon Palace. That's right. One has to know that a 2.5-star force is like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, even if 101-star forces teamed up. The atmosphere became more solemn as the meeting reached its halfway point. Many of the sovereigns present were sent out to the Eastern Continent, Western Continent, Northern Continent and other places, using the sacred teleportation array. In the ancient records, clans were split into 5 stars, half-star, 1 star, and the highest 5 stars. For example, the Iron Blood religion was only a half-star force, close to 1 star. Most of the 10 great clans could barely be counted as 1-star forces. The Scarlet Moon demonic religion back then was a complete 1-star force, close to 1.5 stars. The venerables of the Sacred Alliance did not question this ancient division of forces at all. This proved that sovereigns and normal people didn't exist in the same world. Of course, this didn't affect Zhao Feng or the other true dragon geniuses that had entered the inheritance. Chapter 388. After a moment of confusion, Zhao Feng's body suddenly sank down and landed on a patch of grass. There was only Zhao Feng there. Zhao Yufei and the little thieving cat were nowhere to be seen. At that time Zhao Yufei and the little thieving cat were all in the whirlpool. As long as we were in there, we would be teleported by the array, and it would be random. Zhao Feng thought quickly and came to a conclusion. He could still faintly feel the little thieving cat's existence, but the connection was weak. But as long as the connection was there, it meant that the little thieving cat was still there. I'm actually worried about the safety of the little thieving cat. Zhao Feng found it funny. With the little thieving cat's mysterious intelligence and ability to avoid danger, it would probably live a better life than Zhao Feng. As for Zhao Yufei, since she had been pulled here by the unknown inheritance, she might be well taken care of here. The one that Zhao Feng was worried about was himself. His first reaction was to open his god's spiritual eye and scan the surroundings. Zhao Feng was slightly startled. This strange place suppressed spiritual sense and other senses to a certain extent. His god's spiritual eye's perception was essentially an extension of his senses, but it was suppressed to 10%. Just from this, it could be seen that this unknown inheritance wasn't simple. It wasn't that Zhao Feng hadn't met places that suppressed mental energy. For example, the Floating Crest trial had similar restrictions, but it didn't affect his god's spiritual eye much. At that time, Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye wasn't as awakened as it was now. However, Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye could still clearly see everything within 100 miles. After scanning, Zhao Feng's expression was extremely solemn. In the air, he found groups of birds, and each group had at least a true mystic rank bird leader. A true mystic rank bird leader had strength close to an overwhelming prodigy, and was leading at least 10 true human rank elite birds, as well as tens of thousands of birds. Such a flock of birds was enough to cause Zhao Feng great trouble. After leaving the primordial Colosseum, Zhao Feng's strength was reduced to the level of a peerless prodigy. Not only that, there was also a large flock of flying beasts in the air, and the Yao Bird King's cultivation had reached the true lord rank. It had more than 10 true mystic rank bird leaders under its command, and some of them were comparable to overwhelming prodigies. A large group of 10 to 20,000 birds. Even if the 5 overwhelming prodigies of the sacred true dragon gathering teamed up, they would most likely be killed. Just thinking about it made Zhao Feng's heart palpitate. This unknown land of inheritance was too dangerous. The danger was not limited to the sky. There were also many demon beasts on the ground and in the water. There were also some true mystic rank beasts, and a small number of true lord rank beasts. The most important thing now is to gather information. Zhao Feng could not help but take a deep breath. If it was any one of the 4 great inheritances, he would at least have some information. However, this was the first time this unknown inheritance had come to the Green Flower continent. After half a cup of tea's time, Zhao Feng understood the situation within 200 to 300 miles. After that, he found a relatively safe hill and sat down cross-legged. He first recuperated and consolidated his strength. The sacred true dragon gathering would last 10 to 20 days, and although there would be some time to rest, any genius would feel tired. Zhao Feng needed to rest in order to deal with the unknown dangers of the inheritance. There was another reason. Zhao Feng needed to consolidate his cultivation. In the sacred true dragon gathering he had increased by leaps and bounds. Especially at the end when he had the figure of transferring across space, his mental energy level had increased by leaps and bounds. The power of transferring across space is immeasurable, and I can only touch the tip of it. However, my mental energy level has reached the peak true mystic rank, and is even close to the true lord rank. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. He left a sliver of his consciousness in the outside world, and started to comprehend. In the blink of an eye, 2 to 3 days had passed. Zhao Feng's mental energy, aura and mental energy, had reached an unprecedented peak, and he had a new understanding of the merging of mental energy, aura and mental energy into one. The instant he opened his eyes, the nearby heaven-earth yuan qi seemed to resonate with him. With just a thought, Zhao Feng could absorb the nearby lightning yuan qi. My mental energy level has almost reached the true lord rank. As long as I train and comprehend the power of transferring across space, it'll only be a matter of time before my mental energy level reaches the true lord rank. Zhao Feng couldn't help but be overjoyed. His mental energy level had reached the true lord rank, and his cultivation speed had also increased. From the looks of it, it wouldn't be hard for Zhao Feng to reach the early stages of the true mystic rank. He just needed to enter seclusion for a day or two, and he would succeed. Furthermore, over the past 2 days, Zhao Feng had comprehended the entire process of the sacred true dragon gathering, and had gained a deeper understanding of his bloodline and skills. Invisibly, Zhao Feng's strength had increased once again. With this, Zhao Feng obviously wanted to stay in seclusion for a couple more days. But at this moment, Zhao Feng heard a low roar from the distance. Could there be a beast horde approaching? Zhao Feng's heart jumped. Many of the beasts here could threaten him, and if he was unlucky and met a true lord rank beast, his life would be in danger. Sung. Zhao Feng's figure landed behind a hill and looked towards the direction of the disturbance. 30 miles ahead, there was a black-scaled crocodile dozens of yards long. Its body was like black metal, and its eyes were red like lanterns. Sizzle of black lightning surrounded it. Everywhere the black electric wave passed, the ground was charred black, and thick black smoke rose up into the air. What a weird power of lightning! Zhao Feng felt the qi of true spirit within his body tremble slightly. The black lightning of the crocodile was even stronger, and wasn't any weaker than Zhao Feng's. Furthermore, the crocodile's defense was extremely strong, and could block attacks from those at the true lord rank. If Zhao Feng faced this crocodile, he would lose without using his god's spiritual eye. Ha ha ha. The scales of this black pool lightning crocodile can block true force attacks, and is almost immune to lightning. The electric bone and serene water heart meridian in its body are even rarer and high-grade materials. 3 males and 1 female flew over, and were all around 20 years of age. They were obviously of the younger generation, and were chasing after the black pool lightning crocodile. There were people. Zhao Feng was stunned as he looked at the 3 males and 1 female. The Blackpool lightning crocodile's strength was definitely stronger than goddess Bing Wei and Shi Qingtian. Apart from Yu Tianhao, probably no one else was its match. However, the 3 males and 1 female in front of him were able to beat the Blackpool lightning crocodile to the point where it couldn't even fight back. So. The 3 males and 1 female soon surrounded the Blackpool Lightning Crocodile and fiercely attacked it. 1 peak True Mystic rank, 2 late-stage True Mystic rank, and 1 early-stage True Mystic rank. Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye scanned over the 3 males and 1 female, and his heart jumped. The young woman with the weakest cultivation among them had displayed strength that was comparable to a peerless genius. The other 2 late-stage True Mystic ranks were at least comparable to the overwhelming prodigies of the sacred True Dragon Gathering, and were even slightly stronger than normal overwhelming prodigies. The peak True Mystic rank Eagle-Eyed Youth's battle power was even more terrifying, and made the Blackpool Lightning Crocodile cry out in pain. In the entire sacred True Dragon Gathering, probably only Yu Tianhao could fight him. If it wasn't for the fact that the Blackpool Lightning Crocodile's defense was even stronger than Shi Qingtian's, it would have been torn apart long ago. Furthermore, the eagle-eyed youth seemed to be taking a stroll, and didn't use his full strength, as he looked around cautiously. Where did these people come from? Could they be? Zhao Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The answer was obvious. Blackcliff Palace? Never heard of it. Zhao Feng paused for a moment. It looked like there was more than one force that had entered the inheritance. You don't know the Blackcliff Palace? Are you a native of the Purple Saint Ruins? Chapter 389. Purple Saint Ruins? Zhao Feng's heart moved. This must be the name of this inheritance. These geniuses obviously knew more about this place, and there were more than 1 or 2 forces that had entered the Purple Saint Ruins. Let's talk about the Purple Saint Ruins, Zhao Feng said calmly as a whip of lightning appeared in his hand. In this mental energy prison, time flowed differently than the outside world. A breath of time in the outside world could last several hours, or even half a day. This mainly depended on Zhao Feng's mental energy level. The God's spiritual eye's power allowed Zhao Feng to use the Eye of Illusion even more effectively. Qing Xiaoshua's expression changed as she guessed Zhao Feng's eye bloodline. If she didn't obediently cooperate and couldn't break out of this place, she would have to endure endless torture from Zhao Feng. The mental torture was definitely 10 times, or even 100 times more intense than the physical pain. Don't struggle pointlessly. In the material world, you might be able to cause some trouble for me. But in terms of mental energy, the difference between us is huge. 20 hours here is equivalent to a breath of time in the outside world. Zhao Feng waved the whip of lightning in his hand. Qing Xiaoshua's body trembled as she felt helpless. She was a genius from the clan, and hadn't experienced life and death situations. After being hit by Zhao Feng's Eye of Illusion, she couldn't resist at all. You don't even know what the Purple Saint Ruins is. Your aura doesn't belong here. Could it be that you're a genius from another force that entered the Purple Saint Ruins? But how is that possible? Qing Xiaoshua exclaimed as she suddenly thought of something, and looked at Zhao Feng in disbelief. Zhao Feng couldn't help but snicker. Why can you come in but I can't? The Purple Saint Ruins is an inheritance path, controlled by the 3 strongest sects of the Tianlu Islands. Without an inheritance token, how can geniuses from other forces enter? Qing Xiaoshui was speechless, as though she could not accept this reality. She came from the Tianlu Islands, and the Purple Saint Ruins was a great secret. It would only open once every 10 years, but no one outside of the 3 great sects had ever been able to enter. How did this unfamiliar youth get into the Purple Saint Ruins? Hearing this, Zhao Feng could not help but ponder. The reason why he had entered the Purple Saint Ruins was also an accident. The real reason was probably because of Zhao Yufei. In the following interrogation, Qing Xiaoshua cooperated and answered everything she knew about the Purple Saint Ruins. After all, this information wasn't considered to be confidential, and if she didn't cooperate in the illusory prison, she would only be asking for humiliation. Zhao Feng was very satisfied with Qing Xiaoshua's attitude. How many sects have entered the Purple Saint Ruins? What are the 3 sects you're talking about? Zhao Feng went straight to the point. The 3 sects are the Pure Moon Spiritual Sect, Blackcliff Palace, and Moon Demon Palace. All of them are at least 2-star sections. Apart from that, There are also outstanding disciples from the subordinate one-star sects, a total of 10 of them. Qing Xiaoxue answered. 2-star sects. Hearing this, Zhao Feng's expression changed and his heart shook. In ancient legends, sects were divided into 5 stars, from 1 star to 5 stars. It was like the strict hierarchy of a pyramid. Throughout the history of the Azure Flower continent, the strongest force was the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, which was a 1-star sect. For example, the Iron Blood religion that Zhao Feng came from was a half-star sect, or close to 1-star sect. As for the 13 clans, all of them added together couldn't compare to a half-star sect. From Qing Xiaoshua's words, the forces behind the geniuses that entered the Purple Saint ruins were at least on the same level as the Scarlet Moon demonic religion, surpassing the 10 great sections. Above them were the 3 great sects, which were at least 2-star sections. 2-star sects had never appeared on the Azure Flower continent before. Among the many requirements of a 2-star sect, one of them was to have a Void God Realm king. The Void God Realm was an unimaginable existence for the Azure Flower continent. This meant that any 1 or 2 of the sects behind these geniuses could destroy the Azure Flower continent. How strong are the geniuses that entered the ruins? What's the strength of those like you? Zhao Feng asked a very concerned question. Since they were all in the Purple Saint ruins, it was hard for Zhao Feng to interact with these geniuses. Among the geniuses who entered the ruins, our strength is probably in the middle, maybe even below the middle. There are 10 True Lord ranks here, and the strongest amongst them are at least at the peak True Lord rank, or even at the half-step Origin Core realm. Even if the 4 of us from the Wind Snow Pavilion teamed up, we wouldn't be able to take one move from them. Qing Xiaoxue said bitterly, and when she mentioned the 10 True Lord ranks, she had deep respect and wariness. 10 True Lord ranks. Zhao Feng's heart became solemn, and he felt a pressure he had never felt before. Putting aside the 3 strongest sects, just the 4 from the Wind Snow Pavilion were enough to make Zhao Feng unable to face them head-on. Even the 5 overwhelming prodigies could only fight to a draw. Qing Xiaoxue was the genius with the lowest cultivation of the 4 from the Wind Snow Pavilion. Zhao Feng had a rough understanding of the situation in the Purple Saint ruins. Only the Purple Saint ruins itself was left. What kind of existence was this inheritance? The original owner of the Purple Saint ruins was the Purple Knight Sacred Lord, who once shook the universe. Her cultivation was at the Mystic Light realm, and she was just 1 step away from the Heavenly Divine realm. Qing Xiaoxue slowly introduced the history of the Purple Saint ruins. Zhao Feng wasn't in a rush. After all, time passed differently in the illusion prison than in the physical world. Apparently, the Purple Knight Sacred Lord had a faint bloodline of the 10,000 ancient races, but she died due to some reason. This ruins was left behind by her. However, even though the Purple Knight Sacred Lord had died, a wisp of her soul merged with the ruins and chose a successor for her. Zhao Feng listened quietly. There were many secrets regarding the Purple Saint ruins that made the eyes of countless sovereigns, and even some Void God Realm kings go red. Of course, for a long time, the Purple Saint ruins had been monopolized by the 3 sections. Even if the nearby forces were jealous, even some sovereigns didn't dare to make a move. Just think about it. What kind of power would the 3 legendary 2-star sects have when they joined forces to hold down the fort? These 3 2-star sects could casually send a few subordinate forces to sweep the Green Flower continent. Of the 3 sects, the Black Cliff Palace is a 2-star sect. The Moon Demon Palace was once 2.5 stars, but now it has fallen to 2 stars. The Pure Moon Spiritual Sect is the strongest, reaching 2.5 stars. In the surrounding islands, they are a huge existence. Qing Xiaoxue was respectful and hateful when she mentioned the 3 2-star sections. As a subordinate 1-star sect, Wind Snow School had to pay a large amount of resources to the 2-star sect Moon Demon Palace, above it every year. Islands. Zhao Feng felt that these forces were very far away from the Azure Flower continent. Have you heard of continents? Zhao Feng probed. Continents? That's a legendary place that's too far for us. After the desolate continent shattered, billions of dust formed the fan universe, and each speck of dust was a small realm. Of course, there are some small islands that call themselves continents. They're like frogs at the bottom of a well. Qing Xiaoxue laughed at herself. Zhao Feng heard this and was slightly dazed. He felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't want to delve into this topic. The most important thing was, Zhao Feng needed to survive in the Purple Saint ruins and find opportunities to meet up with Zhao Yufei and the little thieving cat. Within the small cave, a breath of time passed. Plop! Qing Xiaoxue's body was soaked in sweat as she fell to the ground. Pa! Zhao Feng pointed out and instantly sealed Qing Xiaoxue's qi of true spirit, as well as her ability to move. Xiaoxue! The voice of the late-stage true mystic rank Li Xiao came from afar. Li Xiao and Qing Xiaoxue split up and searched together, limiting themselves to this area. The two of them worked together and took care of each other. Even if it was only a breath or two, Li Xiao realized that Qing Xiaoxue had disappeared from his sight. They're so cautious. Zhao Feng found that he had underestimated the 4 geniuses of the Wind Snow Pavilion. Their sects were at least on the same level as the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. Of course, he didn't know that the reason why the 4 were so cautious was because they were worried that the Black Cliff Palace wasn't far from this area. So, Li Xiao exclaimed and flew in the direction of the little mountain. Qing Xiaoxue had disappeared from this place and was actually hidden by Zhao Feng in the ravine. Xiaoxue's gone. It must be someone from the Black Cliff Palace. The eagle-eyed youth and Li Xiao had just finished off the Blackpool giant crocodile and were dissecting the spoils of war when they received the news. So. The remaining 3 geniuses of the Wind Snow Pavilion quickly flew towards the small mountain. 2 late-stage true mystic ranks and 1 peak true mystic rank. I'm afraid I can't hide them anymore. Zhao Feng's expression was solemn. Most of the geniuses that entered the Purple Saint ruins had inheritance tokens, and if they were in a group they could sense each other. Should he run or fight? Zhao Feng's thoughts spun. He had no confidence in fighting 1 against 3. The eagle-eyed youth was on the same level as Yu Tianhao, and the other 2 late-stage true mystic ranks were even stronger than overwhelming prodigies like Goddess Bingwei. Even if they fled, even though their chances were slightly higher, it was impossible to guarantee that they wouldn't encounter even stronger Xenorace geniuses during the process of fleeing. Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye suddenly scanned the situation and had a plan. Although this plan is risky, it's worth a try. Once it succeeds, it will be of great benefit to me. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled with decisiveness. Tongue. Zhao Feng picked up Qing Xiaoxue, who was weak on the ground, and faced the 3 geniuses of the Wind Snow School. Xiaoxue, Li Xiao, who was at the front, and the eagle-eyed man behind him exclaimed in unison, "Which bastard dares to kidnap Xiaoxue?" Li Xiao was both shocked and furious. He couldn't help but shout. Seeing the woman he loved being held hostage by a thief, he felt as if his heart was on fire. "If you dare come near, I'll twist her neck." Zhao Feng's expression was cold as he grabbed Qing Xiaoxue's elegant snow-white neck. Kidnapping Qing Xiaoxue was the first step of Zhao Feng's plan. Chapter 390. Little Hill. Zhao Feng held Qing Xiaoxue hostage. The latter's face was pale white and her body was weak. Her freedom was sealed, and she didn't even have the ability to open her mouth. The 3 geniuses of the Wind Snow Pavilion were enraged but didn't dare to move. "Bastard! Let go of Qing Xiaoxue and kneel down and we'll let you live." The eagle-eyed youth in the lead had a cold and domineering expression on his face. His cultivation had reached the peak true mystic rank, and his battle power was comparable to Yu Tianhao. Every step he took gave off a cold aura of the true spirit realm. Every action had a pressure that could pierce through the heart and make normal true spirit realm cultivators uneasy. Zhao Feng was expressionless and didn't move as he grabbed Qing Xiaoxue's neck and used more strength. Instantly, Qing Xiaoxue's face turned green and red as she coughed and struggled. Her face was filled with despair and pain. "Stop!" The expressions of Li Xiao and the other late-stage true mystic rank changed dramatically. The eagle-eyed youth's footsteps paused slightly. He was secretly surprised that the blue-haired youth wasn't even at the early stages of the true mystic rank and didn't fear his pressure at all. He seemed to be very familiar with this kidnapping. Furthermore, with his cultivation, how could he easily capture Qing Xiaoxue, who was at the early stages of the true mystic rank? I Qiao Chongting, hate being threatened. If she dies, I'll make you beg for death. The eagle-eyed youth said darkly. Zhao Feng didn't move. If any of you take a step closer, I'll cripple one of her arms. If you don't believe me, you can try. The eagle-eyed youth and the other two looked at each other. They didn't think that this unfamiliar youth would be so calm. Indeed, this wasn't the first time Zhao Feng had done this, and he was very good at it. These methods were very suitable for the weak to fight the strong. Back in the Water Moon Treasury, Zhao Feng had kidnapped the mechanism's master and instantly turned the situation around. He was only at the Ascended Realm, but he was able to fight against 3 at the True Spirit Realm. Back in the Canopy Great Country, he had taken Empress Qin hostage and shocked the entire country. Brat, what do you want? Li Xiao could not keep his composure. He could not bear to see the woman he loved suffer such pain. Her life might be in danger at any moment. Before I leave the range of 5 kilometers, none of you are allowed to approach. If you make any movements, she will die. Zhao Feng said slowly. Who knows if you'll try to kill me after you're 10 miles away? The eagle-eyed youth had a cold expression. 5 miles? The eagle-eyed youth was a little surprised. The distance was not far. I'll leave her where she is. Once she's 5 kilometers away, you can rescue her. Isn't this a show of sincerity? Zhao Feng had an indifferent expression as he placed Qing Xiaoxue on the ground. Huh. That blue-haired youth was extremely calm and experienced. Since he dared to put Qing Xiaoxue down and run by himself, he definitely had something to rely on. My Eye Flame secret technique has an effective range of 10 miles. You've all seen its attack speed. Zhao Feng expressionlessly turned around and continued to run. 10 miles. The 3 were filled with disbelief. It wasn't like they hadn't seen Eye Flame secret techniques like this before. But it was unbelievable that it had such an effective range. Of course, this was because of Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye. 10 miles was just a conservative number. However, the further the range, the weaker it was. Once it exceeded a certain range, it wouldn't be effective anymore. I'll give you one last chance or else she'll die. Zhao Feng turned around and left. This time, his speed of retreat increased by a lot. Shwa. Soon, he left behind a string of lightning figures that merged into the forest. In the Purple Saint Ruins, the eagle-eyed youth and company's senses were greatly restricted and could only observe Zhao Feng from the air to confirm his approximate location. They didn't realize that Zhao Feng was in a dark corner of the forest, and a shadow split from the string of lightning figures and disappeared. As time passed, Zhao Feng's speed became slower. After half the time it took to drink tea, the 3 from the Wind Snow Pavilion couldn't take it anymore. Brother Qiao, that brat's almost 10 miles away. Li Xiao quickly said. Li Xiao, you're responsible for saving Qing Xiaoxue. Lu Yuan, you're in the middle. The eagle-eyed youth quickly assigned tasks. Li Xiao agreed and went to save Qing Xiaoxue. In the distance, Zhao Feng could only see a dim shadow and didn't respond. The other late-stage true mystic rank, Lu Yuan, was responsible for guarding the middle. There was rescue and pursuit in front, and the corpse of the Blackpool giant crocodile behind. After all, the Wind Snow Pavilion wasn't the only prodigy that had entered the ruins. So, the peak true mystic rank eagle-eyed youth flew through the air and chased after Zhao Feng. No matter what, I must kill him. This brat doesn't have the aura of an inheritance token and doesn't belong to any of the 3 sides. He might have a weakness in the Purple Saint Ruins. The eagle-eyed youth's eyes were cold. From the first moment he saw Zhao Feng, he didn't plan on letting him go. With the eagle-eyed youth's speed, he instantly caught up to Zhao Feng, who had turned into a blur. Brat, you'd better surrender now. The eagle-eyed youth looked down at Zhao Feng, who was running through the forest. However, the blue-haired blur ignored him. The eagle-eyed youth's expression suddenly changed when he finally locked onto his target with his spiritual sense. Not good. I've been tricked. The eagle-eyed youth waved his hand, and a gust of wind instantly extinguished the Zhao Feng in his sight. Whoosh! That electric phantom disappeared into thin air, like a dreamy bubble. So, this was the shadow doppelganger, created by Zhao Feng's Yin shadow cloak. The higher one's cultivation, the more realistic the shadow doppelganger would be. Because his spiritual sense was restricted in the Purple Saint ruins, he couldn't see far away with his spiritual sense. The shadow doppelganger was fleeing in a forest ravine with cover. The eagle-eyed youth and the other two couldn't see through it with their naked eyes, even though they were several miles away. After all, not everyone had Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye, which didn't require spiritual sense to destroy illusions from far away. If this is a fake, then where's the real one? The eagle-eyed youth realized that something was wrong. At the same time, Lu Yuan, who was in charge of guarding, exclaimed, "Thief, how dare you steal our spoils of war?" Shua, a blue-haired youth, had appeared in front of the Blackpool giant crocodile's corpse. He luring the tiger away from the mountain. Success. Zhao Feng smiled and took out a sharp weapon, and quickly cut the most valuable lightning bone and water heart pulse of the Blackpool giant crocodile. In reality, the Blackpool giant crocodile's body had pretty much been cut open. The only thing missing was the spoils of war. The moment Zhao Feng made the plan, he realized this point, and started thinking about the spoils of war. At this point in time, the eagle-eyed man, who was the strongest among them, had been lured away by at least 20 Li Li Xiao had saved Qing Xiaoxue, and the two were resting 7 to 8 miles apart. The late-stage true mystic rank Lu Yuan, who was closest to Zhao Feng, was 2 to 3 miles away. However, just an overwhelming prodigy at the late-stage true mystic rank wasn't enough to threaten Zhao Feng. Shua. Zhao Feng quickly took the lightning bone and water heart pulse of the Blackpool giant crocodile. The Blackpool giant crocodile has a faint ancient bloodline and is extinct in the Azure Flower continent. The lightning bone of this crocodile is a great material for forging lightning weapons. At the same time, because it contains the essence of lightning yuan qi, it's similar to the lightning mystic stone, and will probably be even better. Although the water heart pulse is of the water element, it can strengthen one's meridians, heal injuries, and strengthen one's body. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. With these two items, his cultivation and strength would be able to rise to a whole new level, which was a great benefit to him. Preposterous. This brat dares to steal our spoils of war. The eagle-eyed youth and company's noses were almost crooked from anger. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.